Now, what in the world is HTML? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And what this mumbo jumbo gibberish means is that HTML is not a programming language. It is, in fact, a markup language. Now, why HTML is so important and well worth our time learning it? You see, HTML is responsible for the structure of the web pages, and that makes HTML elements the building blocks of the web pages. HTML elements are represented by this syntax: content between the tags. More precisely, opening tag, which consists of the name of the element we would like to use, surrounded by angle brackets, following what will be displayed on the web page, and then the closing tag for the element. For the closing tag, we also need to add forward slash before the name of the element. So if we want a heading in our web page or web project, we would create a heading tag and write our heading. If we would want a paragraph, we would create a paragraph tag and some text that will be in our paragraph. Same would go for the link, and you get an idea. Some elements, though, will not have closing tag, like, for example, image or the line break. And there will be times when you'll see for these elements with a forward slash before a closing angle bracket. While HTML5 does not require that, meaning both syntaxes are valid with and without a forward slash. For example, React, which is probably most popular JavaScript framework around today, has a stricter policy where forward slash is required. Just something to remember. Just to give you an early taste of HTML, let me open up a new browser window, and let's say that we're going to be searching for ESPN.com. Now, once we open up the URL, obviously we have our web page. However, we can do the inspect and look at developer tools, and obviously we're going to cover this during the course. And as you notice here, even though there's a lot of moving parts because this is a complex page, check this out. You have all over the place the opening tag and the closing tag, meaning HTML is still responsible for the structure of this web page. And this is why it's so important to learn HTML. In order to do any kind of web development, we for sure will need two things: a text editor to create our project and a web browser to test our results. While there are many options out there, for this course, we'll use Google Chrome as our web browser and Visual Studio Code as our text editor. While I can go on and on about why you should pick these two specific tools in a short one-sentence answer, both of them are industry leaders and first ones to implement new features. And by doing so, improve our workflow and overall development experience. Both of them are for free and require simple download. While this is not a requirement, meaning you can use other browser and text editor to your liking, if you want the same exact results during the course as me, I would suggest downloading these two tools. First, let's start by getting the Google Chrome browser. So I'm going to open up whatever default browser I have on my machine. And I'm just going to say Google Chrome, and we can maybe add, I don't know, download, because this should always point us to the right direction anyway. And as you can see, we have the most secure browser on the web. We just click it over here, and we have an option for downloading. And we just bravely click here, accept and install. And this is going to be installed on my machine. Once the download has been completed, we can head over to downloads, and notice over here we have the installer package. So we can just click on a package, and notice right away it gives us the Google Chrome. So we can just drag and drop it to our applications just so we can have it available. And right now it's saying that it's copying to the applications, and we should have it available to us in no time. Now, once the installation has been completed, you can just close it over here. And if you want, you can just eject the Google Chrome, and we can just look for it in the applications. So let me see where in the applications I have the Google Chrome. So first of all, let me open this. And once I open it up over here, it's going to ask me whether I'm okay with this being the application from the web. I'm going to say yes, that I would like to open it, as well as I would right away going to set it up in a dock. So I'm just going to right click it, and this is going to keep it in a dock. Now also, I would right away like to make this a default browser. Now again, you don't have to do this, but I would suggest that you do that with me. Just remember that depending on your operating system, you might need to take different steps. Now on a Mac, I'm going to head over for this icon all the way on the top right corner and just going to click on it. So as you can see over here, we have the settings part and we can just click on the settings link. Now within the settings, we're going to scroll down a little bit and notice here we have make it as a default. So I'm just going to click it over here and I'm going to say that yes, I would like to use Chrome as my default. And that pretty much completes our downloading of Chrome and setting it up as our default browser. Okay, awesome. We have our browser. Now what? Well, I believe I told you that we needed also a text editor. So we can put our good old friend Google right now already, since it is on our machine to use, and we can just search for the Visual Studio Code. And again, same old spiel. You can just say Visual Studio Code. Well, we're not going to be looking for logo. We're going to be looking for the Visual Studio Code. And notice this is going to be the first link that pops up. So again, bravely, without hesitation, we just head over here. And as you can see, it tells me right away what operating system I'm on. And it says, well, here is the download buddy. Okay, so I'm just going to click it over here. So this is going to start my download again. The installation package is going to be available to us in a second. And again, obviously, if you're using different operating system, they will going to provide you with a proper installation package for your operating system. Now here you can see that this would be my download. So I can just open it over here. And once I have it right next to Google Chrome, I have my Visual Studio Code. Now again, the same old spiel. I would just need to grab this and just drag and drop it in my applications. So I'm done with getting my Visual Studio Code. And again, the same thing within the applications. I would first find the Visual Studio Code and I'm just going to open up over here. Now, let me first of all maybe close this. I don't need the actual browser open. And again, it will going to ask you, are you okay with this? Well, obviously we are, since we want to work with this. And before we do anything, again, I'm going to keep this in a doc. So I'm just going to say options and keep it in a doc. Now, once we open up the Visual Studio Code, and you know what, let me just make this bigger so it's a little bit easier to see. We're going to be met by welcoming string. Now, in welcoming screen, we have a few options. We can open up a new file, open the folder, and as you can see, we can also customize this. Now, this is going to be the first time when you're actually downloading Visual Studio Code. Obviously, you're not going to have the recent projects. The only reason I do is because I had to reinstall the Visual Studio Code just so we can go through all the steps together. Now, I'm not going to spend tons of times right now on Visual Studio Code because I would like to get us up and running and actually create our first web page. I do want to show you, though, the general workspace. So let me close this first of all. And as you notice, these icons, right? So we have at the very top, this is where we're going to be working with our files. So as you notice, I'm opening this up, and this is going to be the space where we're going to be doing most of our work. In fact, all of our work. And this would be our file structure. So whether there's going to be folders, files, or images, or anything like that, this is going to be within this tab over here, within the sidebar. Now, next we have few other things, few other icons that we're not going to use right now. Let's say search throughout the documents. Then we also have for the source control, which would be Git, as well as debugging. Now, again, we're not going to cover them right now because we're not going to use them. However, there will going to be something useful, which is extensions. Meaning with every text editor, you basically have capabilities of adding more features to a text editor. And we're going to do that actually in a second. But for now, just remember that these would be basically the extensions that you have available. So as you can see here, recommended. But for now, you shouldn't have any extensions installed if you obviously just downloaded the Visual Studio Code. Now, if you would like to search for extension, again, we can just type whatever extension we're looking for. And obviously, this is not going to come up with anything. But let's say we're going to say JavaScript, and this is going to bring me all kinds of extensions. Now, last but not least, regarding Visual Studio Code, something that will going to be important, especially later on, as we're going to be working more and more with Visual Studio Code, it's the settings. So if you click on this cog all the way in the bottom, notice it's going to give us settings. Now, settings allow us to customize the workspace. So let's say we want a bigger font size. So I could change this from 12 to, let's say, 22. If I would want a different tab size, again, we can just change this around. And what I'm trying to tell you is that as the more you're going to be working with your actual text editor, there's going to be times when you're changing your settings to adjust whether that's going to be an extension or just for your personal preferences. Now, also the settings are in fact in a JSON object. So this would be basically graphical interface, how we can work with the settings. However, if let's say I'm going to change the setting from font size, let's say I'm going to save that this is going to be 22. And once I make the changes are going to be automatically saved. However, there's also an option for the JSON object. And within the JSON object, notice something interesting. So now these would be my settings. As you noticed, I changed it from whatever it was initially to, let's say, 22. So if I would want to add something else, I'm going to say, I don't know, that the setting for the fonts is going to be something like 30. Now, in this case, I would need to save it. So I have a few options. Either I can go here and just look for the file and check this out, that I can obviously save it, or I would have to use the shortcut, and that would be Command and S. Again, if you're working on Windows, that probably would be Control and S, but since this is a Mac, I'm just going to say that this would be Command and S. Now, in my case, again, I'm going to delete this because I would like to come back to it within a few videos whenever we're going to make our first web page already. But just to let you know that this is where the settings would be located for the Visual Studio Code. Okay, enough of me yapping. Let's start working on our first web page. Now, in order to do that, we will going to need a project. Now, in order to create a project, we just need to create a new folder. And this is obviously a Mac thing any operating system thing. It's nothing to do with Visual Studio Code or the actual web development, but we would need to create a new folder. Now, I'm going to be creating my folder, as you can see, in a desktop, but obviously the same thing would work if you're going to go to your Finder and let's say we work in documents. I just find it much more straightforward if I'm going to be working with all my files and folders on a desktop. And like I said, I would like to create a new folder, and obviously I would need to come up with some kind of name. So let's say that I'm just going to call this HTML. Now you can call this however you would like. Bobby went to town or whatever. It doesn't really matter. So let me save this. And now I have to look at it, how we can get the folder, so the working project, to the Visual Studio Code. So first of all, let me go back to the file. And as you can see, we have multiple options. So first of all, I can just click over here on Open Folder. And you know what, this settings is for now a little bit annoying. So let me just close this. And here I can click on it. And this is going to give me an option. So if I go to the desktop, I can just click it over here. And this will open up the folder in the actual Visual Studio Code. Now we also have an option of, as you notice, if I'm working with Visual Studio Code, then I'm going to have this File tab. Now within the File tab, notice again, we have either Open Recent, or in general, we would have Open. Now again, this would work the same way. We click on Open, and this is going to direct me to the folder already because I obviously was just here a second ago. Now, last but not least, there's a very nifty feature where we can just drag and drop it. So if I'm going to grab this project that I have right now, or folder or directory, call this whatever you would like, and just drag and drop it here. And this is going to do the same thing, where, as you can see right now, I have my folder available to me, and I can start creating files and other folders maybe within this project folder, and basically get up and running with my project. All right, I have the folder, but how do we create our first web page? Now, first of all, let me just make this bigger again so we can see everything that's happening. Now, second, it's easy to see that everything is in very small fonts. And like I said, we will gonna fix this later, but just to give you a tip, whenever you're working again with Visual Studio Code, you're gonna have an option of zooming in. As you can see right now, if I'm pressing Command and plus or minus, I'm zooming in or I'm zooming out. I'm going to zoom in so we can see really clearly what we're doing, but we're going to fix this in the next video, and we're going to start working with our settings. Now, first and foremost, we're going to have to create a file. Now, again, we have a few options. As you notice here, we have a little icon, and when I'm hovering over it, it says that we can create a new file. Or there's another option where we just right click it on the sidebar. And again, we have multiple options, and what we're interested in is new file. Regardless, the result is going to be exactly the same, that we can create a new file. Now I want to call my file, my first file, index.html. And both of these things are important. It's important to call this index, as well as it is important to have this extension of HTML. Now the reason for HTML extension, because there's going to be different files. There's going to be there's actually going to be CSS files later on. There's going to be some JavaScript files and all kinds of files. So this tells the browser of what type of file this is going to be. Now, second, the index is important because whenever you're going to download your project or upload your project to the server, this is going to be your homepage. So if you're going to homepage, this is going to be index.html. If you're going to have an about page or contact me page, you'll name this however you'd like. But your homepage will going to have to be index.html. Now, on the right hand side, like I said, this would be the space where we're going to be doing all of our work, which would be our workspace. Now, since we know that HTML is made up of elements, let's create our first two elements. And again, we will cover them in bigger detail later on, but let's just get up and running with our first web page. So first of all, we would like to have a heading 1. And again, syntax was the opening tag and a closing tag. Now what's going to happen with Visual Studio Code, this will automatically going to create the closing tag for us. So we don't need to worry about it. So here I'm going to say hello world. And then let's also add maybe a paragraph. And again, we had an option of just creating the paragraph tags or paragraph element. And I'm going to say this is my first web page. And again, please don't worry. I'm going to go over detail what these things mean in later videos. But just for now, let's get up and running with our first web page. Now, as you notice right away, you have this one, as well as you have this little circle here. Now, what this says that you haven't saved the file. And again, if you would like to save the file, you have two options. You can head over to the file, and then we can just click on save, as well as it tells us right away the shortcut, which would be Command S. So either you just press on the file or Command S, and now we're going to save the file. So how do we look at our first web page? Well, we're going to have to navigate again back to our folder or project, or again, call this however you'd like. And notice right now you have this index.html file. However, it has this little icon right next to it. And maybe in your operating system, the icon might be different, but the general idea is that we can open up this file in the browser. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, we can just double click, or we have an option of right clicking, and notice it says, well, open with. Well, since we already set up the Google Chrome, this is going to open up as a default browser. But the same way would work if you would have a different default browser. If I'm just going to double click this, this is going to open up in your default browser. So again, since in our case, both of them are exactly the same, it would have the same result regardless. And sure enough, now I have hello world, and this is my first web page. Now, again, this is not most sophisticated web page. However, this is a job well done since we created our first web page successfully. Now, making our first web page was a lot of fun. However, there are a few nagging issues that I would like to fix. And first of all, those would be our workspace settings. So I'm going to head over again to the cog, and then I click on the settings. And now I'm going to open up this settings window. Now, within the settings window, first of all, I would like to change here the font size. So again, if you'd like to search for it, as you can see, we have an option on the search bar. And again, if I'm going to type something, this is going to bring me whatever setting I would like to change. So I'm going to say here that the new font size should be something like 26. So as you can see, this is going to be automatically saved. Now next, again, just to show you that we have other option where we have the JSON object, then I'm just going to click it over here on the little icon, and this is going to open up my JSON object. Now on the right hand side, these are going to be my settings or our settings that we're going to have. And remember, just by changing the zoom level, notice the setting is right away over here. And again, we didn't do this in a previous screen. Remember, we did it previously when we were zooming in and zooming out. So for now, your zoom level, let's say, is at 2. However, if I'm going to press it one more time, notice it's going to zoom in. And now my zoom level is going to be at 3. Now within this screen, the way it will work, again, it's going to be the similar way. Because again, we can look for something. Now what I'm looking for is the tab size. So I can just say tab size. And this is going to bring me to the editor and tab size. Now we're not going to be able to do any kind of work here because it's going to complain that this is going to be read only. So if I'm going to try to change this something here, this is not going to work. However, we're going to have an option of editing. So if I'm going to click on this little pencil, it says right away, copy to the settings. So the moment I'm going to do that, this is going to copy to the settings where I can change them. So in my case, I would like to have them as 1. Now, again, depending on how you like to work, Your zoom level is obviously going to change. For me, I'm going to leave this for now at 2, and later on, I'm going to see how this is going to work. So what we can do right now is just close both settings, and we are ready to go. Now, another nagging thing about our first web page is all the manual labor that we need to do. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's say that in my first web page, I would like to change from hello world to hello people. Well, we can definitely do that. So again, we're going to head over back to our document. I'm going to go over here within the content that's going to be displayed on the page. So within the heading tags, and I'm going to say hello people. Now, again, we would need to save this. And again, you can prefer the shortcut or the long way through the file system. And here I'm going to save this. Now, once I save it, I need to head over back to my web page again and refresh it. The moment we refresh the page, obviously we have hello people. And while this does not seem like a lot of work right now, trust me, the more and more we're going to be learning and working and experimenting, this is going to get annoying really fast. In order to fix that, we're going to install our first extension for the Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to click on this icon, and now we need to search for our extension. Now, if you'd like to search for extension, again, we would do this in a search bar. So here I'm just going to type live, and the name of the extension is going to be server. Now, this is going to bring up the extension that we're looking for. And as you can see, the moment I make the sidebar a little bit bigger, we can just see more clear what this extension is all about. Now, if you want to have more information about extension, which you should probably read a lot of times before you install this extension, so that is a good option, you can just click on it. So double click on it, and then you're going to have this info window. Now, if you'd like to install the extension, we're just going to click on the installing of the extension. And now we would need to reload the Visual Studio Code. So we're just going to click on reloading. And sure enough, now we have our extension available. How do I know that? Because these are the extensions that we have on our machine. And these would be the recommended extensions, as well as the moment I'm going to start typing, the Visual Studio Code is going to be suggesting me extensions, obviously based on what we're typing here in the search bar. So with all that being said, what I can do right now is, first of all, minimize it just so you can see a little bit better what's happening. I'm also going to close whatever the web browser we had before. So I'm going to close this browser thing. Then let's also maybe make this smaller, as well as open it up in the actual file system, or I'm sorry, not file system, basically in the folder. And then once we have all that, what we would need to do is right now navigate to our workspace. And once we are in our workspace, again, we have few options. So either we can go here where we have go live. So this is going to open up the live server, or we can right click it. And again, we're going to have the option of open with a live server, as well as we have a shortcut. And the shortcut would be Command L and Command O. Now I'm just going to press on the go live over here, and this is going to open up our local development server. Now, what's really nice about this? Why we would prefer this way instead of the previous way? Well, first of all, the way the course is going to be setting up is I'm going to set up them side by side. So I'm going to open up this guy, so my Visual Studio Code, as well as my code editor, my local development server on the right-hand side. So all the changes that we're going to be doing, we're going to be able to see right away in our live server. So let's say that I'm first of all going to close this because it's complaining that we don't have a proper structure, which we will going to do in the next video. So don't worry about it. But let's say if I would like to change this back to the hello people, I can just delete whatever I would like to change. And we're going to write hello world. Now, for now, nothing is going to change because we still don't have the proper syntax for the HTML document. So basically there has to be structure. However, later on, we're going to have an option where every time we're going to be making some kind of change, the changes are going to be showing up right away live here on the right-hand side in our local development server. And trust me, in the long run, that makes our lives much more easier. While we are very happy with our first web page, as we should be, it's hard to miss an error message by the live server in the very bottom of the screen. So there has to be something missing in our web page. Now that something is a proper HTML structure. So let's take another quick pit stop in the slide wheel to discuss that. You see all HTML elements follow the same basic structure so that the browser that renders the file knows what to do. At the very top, we have a doc type declaration that tells the browser what HTML version the page is written in. The doc type you see in the slide corresponds to the latest version of HTML, which is HTML5. Next, we have HTML root element that will wrap all our code in the page and will always contain one head element and one body element. And notice how everything is kind of sandwiched, nested inside HTML element. By the way, that is really important. And we'll discuss that in more detail once we head back to text editor. After HTML root element, we have HTML head element that will contain information about the page. Like, for example, page title, page metadata, and links to external resources like CSS style sheets and JavaScript files. Content within the head element will not be visible on a page that is being rendered. And with your permission, I would like to hold off on covering head element content in any more detail because at this point in time, we have more important business to attend. In short, head element will contain information about the page and will not be visible on the page that is being rendered. Now, body element is a whole nother ball game because this is where we'll do all of our work, like adding headings, paragraphs, links, and basically creating our fantastic web pages. Now that we know the basics of HTML page structure, let's implement it in our first web page. Now that we are big shots and we know the basic HTML document structure, let's implement that in our page. So first of all, let me just get rid of this heading 1 and paragraph because we're going to redo this anyway. And let's start with our doc type. So here we're going to declare what version of HTML we're going to use. And in our case, that's going to be HTML5. So as you can see right away, Visual Studio Code gives you a suggestion. It's like, hey, listen, do you want a doc type? And sure enough, we do. Again, this is not a cheating. There's nothing wrong with that. That will gonna save you a lot of time in the long run. Now, next we'll have HTML root element. Again, let me get rid of all caps, and we're gonna write HTML. Now, within the HTML, remember we had the head element, and within the head element, we can right away place a title. Again, title is just gonna be where the title of the page is gonna be displayed. So here we're gonna say first, not fist, but first. Web page, and then let's go right away to the body, and let's write within the body. There's going to be two more things. Heading 1 is going to be hello, my name is John, or whatever name you obviously would like to write. So hello, my name is John, and then we're going to write, I don't know, in a paragraph, and this is my first web page. This is my first web page. Now, once I'm going to save it, nothing is going to change right now because we still would need to restart the server because now we do have the proper actual page structure or document structure. So let me do this. Let me just go over to the port and click on disposing it. So now you can see it's going to say that server is going to be online. Okay, fair enough. And then let's go live. So the moment I'm going to go live, notice this is going to be my page with the title here at the very top. So I can close this tab. And now let's test it out whether live server is working properly, where we can type something, and the moment we're going to save it, the changes are going to be displayed live in a live server or in dev server, sorry. So let's say, and this is my first page, and it is very good. And let's add a bunch of exclamation marks here, and let's save this. And sure enough, the moment we save it, notice what happens. So all the changes were being displayed right away here on a live server. So what's happening again is we don't need to go and refresh because live server is doing it for us. So development server is working hard, so we have to work less hard. Now also I would like to right away show you that with a dev server or with the live server, we have an option of right away where every time we're going to be working, there's going to be changes displayed. And for this, we have autosave. So let's do this guy. And then every time we're going to be typing something, it will in fact going to be displayed right away on a page. So let's say after the heading 1, I'm going to add another one. So as I'm starting to type, notice what happens in a live server. So in this case, we don't even need to save anything. The moment we're going to be typing something or adding something, the changes are going to be displayed live. However, I do find it a little bit annoying, especially when you start working with things like JavaScript. So I usually have mine one off. Now it's really up to you. however you would like to prefer to work. However, for this tutorial, I always will gonna have my one off. So first I'm gonna make the changes and then I'm gonna save the changes and then they're only gonna be displayed here on the page. Also, I would like to talk about how the tags are nested. So as you notice, we have the HTML and HTML would be our root element. And then we have two children. And the reason why they're called children, they're sitting within this HTML element. Now, the two children are the head element as well as the body element. Now, it is important to keep the syntax because this will not going to make sense if you have a child within the head element and then let's say the closing tag of this title is going to be removed and placed, let's say, outside the head element. You always need to follow the structure where if you have the element and if you nest something within this element or sandwich it or whatever, however you'd like to call it, it's important that the closing tag also is going to be sitting within the same element. Now, the same would work here in the body. If, let's say, I would get rid of this closing tag for my heading 1 and place it inside the body or even outside HTML, it will not going to make sense. So this is something also you should remember about children and parent. So the parent is going to be the parent element where the child is sitting. And as you can see, the child can have multiple or one other child element. So even though the head is the child of HTML, it can have the child on its own, meaning the title element in this case would be the child of the head. Now, I know it might sound foreign with children and parents, everything, but just remember that it is important to follow the syntax where if you're placing something within the element, make sure that that element's closing tag and opening tag are actually sitting within this element. And the same would go over here. Don't mix, let's say, heading 1 with paragraph. Don't place the closing tag for the heading 1 within this paragraph because again, you're going to get errors and it will not going to make sense. Excellent. We now know how to implement basic HTML document structure. Our live server is working correctly and we're good to go and start actually working more with HTML, meaning learning more HTML elements. However, before we do that, let me quickly show you two very important things that are going to come very beneficial as we're going to be working with HTML elements. Now, first of all, I would like to talk about the word wrap. As you notice, since we have the paragraph and it's quite a long, and let's say if I'm going to be adding more here exclamation marks and I'm going to save it, everything's going to be displayed nicely in the page. However, notice what happens with our actual text editor. So now I need to start scrolling left and right. And you can say, well, you can always zoom out, right? So I can keep zooming out. However, what if we're going to be adding more text here? That's not going to make sense because then basically I'm going to have to make it really small. And first of all, for the tutorial, it's going to be very hard for you to see, as well as in general, whenever you're going to be working, this is not going to make sense. So what would be the solution? Well, again, we're going to have to go back to the settings. So we're going to click on a cog and then we'll look for the setting of the word wrap. So again, let me find this. And then you're going to have this control how lines should wrap. And here in this case, we just need to say that this would be on. So instead of off, that was there before, we're just going to go for on. Now what's going to happen again, this is going to auto save right away. And we can just see that in a text editor right now, this is going to wrap the line. And again, this will make your life easier because you're not going to have to scroll left and right as well as zoom out. So now whenever you're going to have a longer line, this is just going to wrap into new line. Now, next, I would like to talk about Emmet. Now, what in the world is Emmet? You see, Emmet is something that speeds up your HTML workflow. Now, if you're using different text editor, you can still access Emmet. However, in the Visual Studio Code, Emmet is built in. Now, again, if you would like to have a little bit more information about the Emmet, you can head over again in the Google and just type Emmet, and you'll see that this is Essential Toolkit for Web Developers, where we can quickly write a bunch of code. Now, there's tons of things about Emmet, and again, I wouldn't want to spend a lot of time on that. However, in our most basic example, what's going to happen is that every time I would like to create a HTML element, I don't have to start by the angle bracket. I can just say whatever element I would like to render. So let's say I'm looking again for heading 1. Notice the moment I'm just going to type H1, and the same is going to be for you, we're going to have a suggestion. And as you can see, it says clearly Emmet abbreviation. So what happens is if, let's say, I would like to have heading 1 or heading 2 or heading 6, I can just type head like H, and then we can choose whatever heading we would like. The same would work if I would want a paragraph. Again, I just need to type whatever name of the element, or let's say not the name of the element, but starting letter of the element. And Emmet is going to do rest. Now, if I would like to render that element, I would have to press tab or return. So basically the enter key. So once you press it, notice right now I have my element. Now, again, this is just the most basic thing that we can do with Emmet. And later on throughout the course, obviously, we're going to expand our knowledge regarding Emmet. But just on a very basic level, this is going to save us from, again, typing and typing and typing unnecessary HTML, where we can just look for whatever element we would like. And right away, it's going to be rendered. So let's say here, I'm going to say this is Emmet paragraph, meaning paragraph, like with just a P. Notice if I'm going to save this, sure enough, I'm going to have, and obviously I didn't save it first. So now once I save it, notice I'll have this is Emmet paragraph. So all this is very cool. Again, if you would like to find out more information, you can just head over to this Emmet.io. And if you're using different text editor, you should be able to install it as an extension. However, with Visual Studio Code, it comes in pre-built. Now, last but not least, all this work that we did, we could have done it actually with an Emmet. So let me delete this. And once you're going to have an exclamation mark, so I'm going to press Shift and exclamation mark. And notice again, this is going to give me Emmet abbreviation. And the moment we press enter, notice what happens. So now we're getting the proper HTML structure that we worked on in the last video. So this pretty much saves us time where we don't have to retype this. And again, please don't focus on these meta tags. We were going to talk about them once we already have sufficient knowledge of HTML. There's no point right now to fill your head with this information as well as this language. Again, what we need to focus right now is the fact of the title that's sitting within the head element, as well as all the work that we're going to do in the body element. So let me close maybe this Emmet for now. As you can see right now, this is still saying, hello, my name is John. But once we're going to save this, I don't know, proper structure. Let's call this one structure. And as you can see, my typing is just awesome. And here we're going to have just a simple heading 1 with title of the page being a document. Excellent. We're finally going to take a deep dive into HTML components. And our first component is going to be headings. Now, we obviously have already covered headings because I need to do something with examples pretty much. I couldn't have them empty. So you're already a little bit familiar with headings. But let me go over the whole spiel again. Now, basically, headings would be titles. So if you think of any kind of document, you're going to have a title. And for that, we have headings. Now, for the headings, we have 6 types, starting with heading 1 and ending with heading 6. And obviously, heading 1 would be the biggest one, and heading 6 would be the smallest one. So let's start with heading 1. Again, we can use Emmet, obviously, and we can have a tab or enter or a return. And then here, I'm just going to say I am heading, and we're going to type heading 1. Now, what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to copy and paste this line. And later on, I'm going to show you some keyboard shortcuts. But for now, we're going to be basically doing this manually like we would do normally on a computer, meaning we're going to do it with copy and paste. Later on, we're going to look at a keyboard shortcuts that we're going to improve, again, our workflow tremendously. So let me first of all copy this. And let's say to the second line. And maybe for this one, let's make it as a heading 2. So let's change these values as well as this guy. So let me save this. And sure enough, now I have a heading 2. Now, maybe in this case, I can just copy and paste it again, 2 of them right away. And one more time. So then I'm going to have 6 of them. So here we would like to change the values. So this would be heading 3. Heading 4, heading 5, and heading 6. And the same old spiel over here. Well, obviously not heading 6, but we'll have heading 3, heading 4, and heading 6. And again, same old thing like with the rest of the elements that we're going to have. We're going to have the element that is enclosed in an angle brackets, as well as the closing tag. So whatever is going to go inside between these 2 tags is going to be my heading. So obviously, if you want to write a paragraph, you can write a paragraph in a heading. Now, I don't know any case where you would want to use that. Obviously, title is self-explanatory. That is the title. So depending on how long of the titles you write, whether it's 1 word, 2 words, or 10 words, but in general, you probably wouldn't want to have a title that is actually a paragraph. We have specific paragraph tag for that. Now I digress a little bit, but let's say first of all, this is going to be heading 3, heading 4, because I didn't add the numbers. Sorry, I was cheating a little bit. So let me save this. And sure enough, as you can see right now, we have 6 headings. So depending on the situation, obviously you would pick a heading that you would like to use for that particular situation. Hey guys, just to let you know that starting from this video, if we will write any code during the video, if you would like, you can access lecture code for that particular video in the zip folder in the video resources. So let's take it out for a spin. Let's say that we're going to be looking for the heading elements and we would like to get a source code. We can either click it here. As you can see, this would be the resources, or while you're watching the video, let's say within the images, we can start watching the video and then we can pause it because we don't listen to this guy. And let's just say in the resources, we're going to have the availability for the images zip. So this is how we can access the images zip. In both cases, you're going to download the zip folder for that particular lecture. And then as I'm going not to my documents, I would like to go to the downloads. You'll see how I have 2 zip folders. Now we can just open up these zip folders. Then we're looking for the folder name. And again, this is going to work exactly the same for the image. So I'm not going to show you for both of them, but we can just drag and drop it, or however you would like to open up in your text editor. Now, if you want to save it, obviously you would need to use it for your downloads and then maybe put it in your documents or something like that. But the general sense would be that if you would like to access the code that we write in a video, you can always have access to it in the video resources. So far, so good. We have headings covered, and now we can move on to paragraph. Now, before we start covering paragraph element, let me just quickly correct myself. I believe in the last video I said HTML components, and components we have in React. In HTML, we obviously have elements. So what I meant was heading elements, not heading components. So I would like to correct that first. And second, I would like to show you that starting from the last video, whenever we're going to do any kind of coding in the video, there's going to be resources for you. So as you're watching, maybe it's hard to understand something, you can always go underneath the resources of the video and you can just download this. Now, obviously, in the download, what you're going to have is the same exact thing we were doing in the video. So it's not like I'm going to send you some kind of black magic over here. This is going to be the same information we already covered. As you can see, this is going to be zip file. Now I already automatically open up the zip file and I'm going to have my index file. Now, I don't think I need to go as far as opening the index HTML to show you that this would be same exact thing. Now, for the project, it might be a little bit different because already previously for the previous projects, you noticed that underneath the setup video, we had the whole zip file where it was the starter files as well as the finished project. Now, as I'm re-recording the course, I might add a, again, folder for each and every video that we're doing. That might be something that I'll do, not because I wouldn't want to do it, but unfortunately I have a pretty bad memory, so I might forget. But hopefully I'm going to try to remember, so the same would go for the projects as well. But in general, for sure, I'm going to try to do that with tutorials. So everything that we covered in the last video, it should be accessible for you in the resources. Okay, enough of talking about everything else but the actual HTML. And now let's get rid of all the tags, since you can have always access them in the actual resources. And let's say what we would need for a paragraph. Now for the paragraph, this is going to be very straightforward. We have P, so that would be a letter P, which would reflect a paragraph element. And again, same old spiel, same old syntax, opening tag, closing tag. And here we can write whatever, a novel if we would like to do it. Now, again, like I said, you can still do it in the actual heading, but probably paragraph is where you're going to put your content. So here I can just say, I don't know, some kind of content, and I can just keep on typing. And as you can see, since we have the nice word break, everything is formatted really nicely, and we can just save it. And this is going to be my paragraph. However, if we're going to head over to the browser in a bigger browser window, and let's say I'm going to type 127, because that is where the local development server or live development server is going to serve up my index.html. Notice that everything is sitting correctly like it should be. But again, here as well, I have the zoom for 200, again, just so we can see better everything that we're doing. But in the essence, that would be it about the paragraph. Again, it is very straightforward. We would just need paragraph tags, and whatever text is going to be sitting within these tags is going to be displayed as paragraph. I also need to mention that HTML is white space collapsing. And your probably first question is white space what? And what does that mean? Well, white space collapsing means that HTML is just going to ignore extra spaces. Now it's going to be easier for me to show you than talk about it for 3 hours. So first of all, let's say that there's going to be a heading 3 that will be on top of the paragraph. And in the heading 3, I would like to write hello and world. However, I would decide that it's going to be better for my website if I'm going to add, like, I don't know, whatever amount of spaces in between. Now, what do you think is going to be rendered on the right side in the live server? The moment I'm going to save this, check this out. All the extra white spaces were ignored by HTML. Now, the same would work if I would try to create some space in between the heading 3 and paragraph. Again, we can test it out the same way. The moment I'm going to save it, nothing is going to change on the right side. And not because there's some error or the live server is not working, but because of the simple fact that HTML is ignoring all this white space. Now, the point of this is that in HTML, if we would like to create spaces in between the elements or within the elements, we need to use special HTML elements. Now, I'll look at them a little bit later. But again, if you have been testing it out and if you're confused why, if you're adding the space in between, it's not working, the reason for that is HTML is white space collapsing. While we're still on the subject of the paragraph, I also would like to cover dummy text. You see, there's going to be situations where you know that there's going to be some kind of content, but you don't have the actual content yet. And also, as you can see, in this case, it would also serve me really well, since that I don't have to type all this gibberish. Now, how do we can create dummy text in HTML the fastest way? Well, you see in Emmet, and let me just delete this first. If I'm going to type lorem, you will notice that I'm getting some kind of command. So if I'm just going to press it over here, notice what's going to happen. So basically, we're going to be getting a dummy text, lorem ipsum text. Now we can control how big it is because for now, as you can see, as I save this, check this out. So this would be my text, and there's just specific amount of words. However, I can also control how many words I'm getting from this dummy text. So I can say lorem, and then I would need to specifically say how many words. So if I would want 50, I would write 50. If I would want 10, then obviously I would get 10 words. And again, press tab or return, and sure enough, we're going to be getting this dummy text. Now, if you don't like, for some reason, using Emmet in your HTML, then you can also search for this lorem ipsum. It's kind of universal dummy text. So you can just say lorem ipsum, and you're going to be getting tons of generators that pretty much give you the dummy text. Now, if you like to be a hipster, you can just use lorem ipsum hipster, and this is just going to give you a dummy text that has basically a bunch of hipster words. So let's say I could say 5 paragraphs. Again, we just click on beer me, and as you notice here, instead of this lorem ipsum typical dummy text, we're getting all kinds of hipster words. So if you are a hipster or you would like to be a hipster, maybe you would want this dummy text as a hipster ipsum. These days, it would be really hard to find a website without images. So maybe let's see how we can get images to our HTML. However, the issue is that first we would need to get an image to our system. So some kind of image that we would use. So first of all, let me get rid of this paragraph. So I can just delete it and save it. And obviously there's going to be nothing here. And now we're going to go online and search for image. Now I can obviously do it here on the right-hand side, but I think it's going to be easier for us to see if I'm going to open up the new browser window and somewhere I'm going to make it and I'm going to maximize it. So again, it's easier for you to follow along. And let's say that we're going to search for some kind of image. So let's say Udemy image, and let's see what's going to come up. Instead of some kind of text, we're going to click on images, and now we have plenty of images to choose from. Now, in this case, I'm going to get this one, and in order to save it to our machine, we would need to use the save image as, and this is going to save the image. Now, obviously, this is going to somewhere save it wherever we would like to. So in our case, we would like to save it in the folder that we're working on. Now you can save it in desktop if you want, but eventually you would need to have access in the HTML. So I would suggest right away navigating to HTML folder or folder, whatever you have for these examples, and then save this image. Now, in my case, I'm going to call this Udemy, and then this is going to give it the PNG extension. So now I'm going to save the image, and sure enough, we have the image. Now, getting the image was the first part, and we can obviously double check it in HTML. Sure enough, this is going to be our image. Now we would need to see how we can get it in a document, because on the left-hand side, we can see that we have new file. We have Udemy PNG. However, it is obviously not showing up in a document. Now, the way we display or render images in HTML document is, you guessed it, the image element. Now, for the image element, the actual syntax would be IMG. So I can just start typing IMG, and then it gives us plenty of options. Now we can just go with the regular one and notice what happens. We are giving the image element. And remember, the image element was without a closing tag. So this was a self-closing element. However, we're noticing two interesting things. We're getting something called source and alt. Now, source and alt are attributes. So whenever we are thinking about HTML elements, whatever is going to be in between the tags is going to be rendered. However, attributes would describe the element. So there's going to be attributes that are specific to a specific element. And then there's going to be attributes, let's say, that each and every element can have. Now, for the image, we have the source attribute. Now, source attribute is going to tell us where are we going to be looking for the image. Because obviously for HTML, HTML would need to know where to get the image that's going to be rendered. Now, alternative is going to be if we cannot render the image for some reason. So let's say the path is wrong or something is not working correctly, then this text is going to be displayed. Now, as always, I think it's going to be easier for me to show you how this would work. So if we know that we have this udemy.png, now in a source, we would need to specifically say path. Now, path is where this image is located. And if the image is located in the same folder, we just need to have / and check this out what happens. So now we have two options. We have either index.html, which is the file that we're working, and we have Udemy PNG. So if you are in the image element and you would like to render this Udemy image, which one do you think you would have to pick? Index.html or Udemy PNG? I think that would be Udemy PNG. So once I save this, notice what happens. Sure enough, right now I'm getting my image. However, let's say that first of all, I'm going to change this and I'm going to say for some reason, I'm going to mistakenly say that this is going to be JPEG, not PNG. First of all, then let's see what happens. The image is not displayed because our path is wrong. It's not correct. However, if you would have the alternative here, and we're going to say image of Udemy, and sure enough, now we're going to have the image of Udemy. So this is going to be displayed if we cannot access the image. This is going to be like a alternative syntax if we cannot render the image properly in the HTML. So first of all, let me fix this. Let's say that this will going to be PNG. And again, we're getting back our image. So let's quickly reiterate what we learned in this video. First and foremost, if we would need the image, we would need to get the image from somewhere. Now that could be from Google, like we just did, but later on we're going to look at alternative sources, how we can get images. Then once we have the image in our project, in order to access the image, we would need to use the image tags. So the image element. Now, image element is going to have attributes. Now, one of the attributes is going to be the source, and the second one is going to be alternative. Now, for the source, we need to show the path. And if the path is going to be in the same folder, we just use a / and then whatever name of the image. However, we also going to have suggestions from the Visual Studio Code. So if we're really not trying hard, it's kind of hard to mess it up. And then alternative is going to be displayed if the HTML cannot find the image. Even though everything is displayed correctly in the live server, if we're going to try to run this with the browser, so first of all, let me open up the browser window. And of course, it has to be massive right away. And let's say that we're going to look for our file, which in our case is going to be index.html. notice that we're not going to see the image. So we're getting this alternative text. Now, the reason for that, because file system is giving you a lot of hassle because of this forward slash. Now, I know we haven't covered yet the comments in HTML, and we're going to do that in a few videos. But let me just, first of all, copy and paste this 2 more times. And let me just show you what other options you have for getting the image. Now, first and foremost, as you can see, I actually made a mess a little bit because I didn't want 4 of them here. Let's start with a simple one. Now, alternatively, we could just write like this without a forward slash. And once we save it, notice in the live server, everything is going to be displayed correctly, as well as in the file system. So if I'm going to refresh it, check this out. So now we have a nice image. And also we have another option. So let me copy and paste this line and let's comment out the previous one. We have an option of having the dot and then the forward slash. And again, this is going to do the same thing where I can save it. Everything is going to be displayed correctly on a live server, as well as it's going to work in the browser because as you can see, once I refresh, there's no errors, or in our case, just there's no alternative text. Now, your question probably would be, well, if we can use this guy, why are we using these forward slashes and these dots? And the reason for that is even though I don't like to throw a lot of things in the beginning, eventually the more web development you do, and as you're going to start progressing with Node or PHP, or let's say, I don't know, React, you're going to see a lot of these relative paths where you have dot and then you have forward slash. So that would mean that this is in the same directory, or you're going to see 2 dots, which would mean that this would be in the actual folder, maybe outside the directory. And the point of this is for you to get used to this syntax. So later on, once you see it, you're not like a deer in a headlight, you know, okay, so this means that this would be in the same directory, and then 2 dots are going to mean that if it's outside the directory. Now we're going to cover 2 dots later on as we're working with CSS, because a lot of times CSS is not going to be in the same folder as index.html. So I'm not going to cover that right now. Just please remember that if you would like to open up in a file system, you can use one of these 2 options and it's going to be displayed correctly. However, throughout my projects, I will going to use this dot syntax because I think it's going to make a lot of sense in the long run. So you are very used to the syntax once you progress to that stage. Okay, we have the image that is in our local project. So far, so good. And what about if we're just going to go on top of the image again? Let's use heading 3. And let's say image of Udemy logo, something like this. Again, we can write whatever we would like to do. Now, we have the heading 3, we have the image. What about the images that we can directly access from the web? Okay, let's think about it. So we have the image. Image has the attribute of the source, and source points somewhere. Meaning, in our case, that would be to the same directory where we're working in. Can we maybe use this source and point it to the image that is actually somewhere on the web? Well, let's test it out. First of all, let's have the heading 3 that would say image of YouTube logo. Again, we can name this however we would like. And now you can see that I have heading 3 and heading 3. And between them, I have here this image. Okay, let's test it out. So first of all, again, I'm going to open up the new browser window. Again, I'm going to maximize this. And let's write YouTube, not .com, logo. Then let's specifically say that we're looking for the image. And in this case, what we would like to do, instead of using save as that we did before, remember we used save image as, now we can have an option of copy image address. So let's click on this. Now the address is going to be copied to our clipboard, and we can head over back to our HTML. We can again create a new image element. And in this case, within the source, let's copy and paste whatever we're getting back from our clipboard. Now, the annoying thing is going to be this, that obviously this path is so long. So again, I'll tell you right away, this is going to be very annoying whenever you're going to be getting something like this from the web. So unfortunately, this is how it is. But we can write over here that maybe for alternative, YouTube logo, something like this. Again, we just want to quickly see it and that's it. And sure enough, everything works fine. We have our image. But annoying part would be the fact that source would be displayed like this. So as you can see, it pretty much we would need to spend like 3 minutes just to scroll up and see all the source that is starting here at the very top. Awesome. We know how we can add image to our HTML document. However, where we can get nice images and more importantly, copyright free images. So first of all, let's get rid of this external one because it's gonna annoy us really fast with all these lines of code. So let me just delete this guy. And sure enough, right now I'm just gonna have the Udemy logo. And while getting your images simply from Google is fine for whatever small projects we're doing for our own use. Whenever you're going to be doing something commercial, you're going to get in a lot of trouble if you're just going to say, let's say, some kind of images, and you're going to be using them for your commercial purposes. So what we need to do is get images that have no copyright issues, that are copyright free. And obviously there's many sites that you can use, but I usually prefer using 3 of them. So one of them would be Pixabay. Then I really like Pexels. Mostly I'm getting everything from the Pexels. And by the way, Pexels also has the video ones, as well as you have Gratisography. And with the Gratisography, it's more like funny pictures you see as like with a bunch of people. And again, it would work exactly the same way. So if you're going to go to the site and if you're going to find whatever you're looking for, and let's say in the Pexels, we would like to have technology, something like this, then obviously we're getting very high quality and copyright free images. So in this case, let's get this laptop. And again, it would work the same way. Save image as, again, we would save it here. Let's say laptop. That's going to be the name. And we're just going to get whatever extension it provides us anyway. So I'm going to head over again. And we're going to test it out one more time, where we're going to say that this is not going to be image of Udemy. We're going to write image of Pexels laptop. And let's do right underneath the heading 3, the image tag again. And we know that we have the source attribute. And within the source attribute, again, we're looking for the images. Now, since I would like to have the laptop, I'm obviously going to choose the laptop. And let's say here, this would be the image of laptop. So Pexels laptop would be my alternative text. So I'm going to save this. And sure enough, I'm getting my image. Now, the issue is that the image is really big. And this is something we're going to cover in the next video. But first of all, let me just double check it how this is going to look in my regular browser, meaning not in this small one that's right next to me by the actual text editor. So now let's do the same thing. We're going to look for 127 port 5000. And sure enough, still this image is going to be much bigger. So in the next video, we're going to talk about it, how we can adjust the size of the images. Okie dokie, we have one decent size image and one very big oversized image. So how we can render them exactly the same size, or at least the second one smaller than it is right now. Now, before we do anything, right away I want to tell you that, well, this may be the fastest way. However, you need to understand that later on you're going to learn better ways, that some of them are going to involve CSS and some of them are just going to involve cropping the image before we even render it. But I'm going to get into this in the next video. In this video, I would just like to show you how we can use attributes, the HTML attributes, in order to do that. So first of all, let's test it out. How big is the image? So let's say for the Udemy one. So once we click on image, notice the image is going to be rendered. And there's many ways how we can check it, but the fastest one probably here, you notice this is going to be 259 by 194. So those would be the pixels. Then for the laptop, obviously this is going to be bigger. We have 1000 by 668. Okay. So we already know that we would be looking for something like this, where we have 259 by 194. Now, whenever we're working with an image, not also we are getting the source attribute and the alt, we also have an option of height and the width. And again, this is going to be very straightforward. So as I start typing, notice again, we're getting a suggestion that we're going to be looking for the height attribute. Now, also, like I said, we have width. Now, if we're going to type width, it automatically is going to adjust the height. So width is probably even going to be the fastest one. So if I'm going to say, let's say 260, because I believe that the first one was 259. And you know what? I maybe wouldn't want to do this with Udemy logo because this is already rendered correctly. So my apologies. Let's get rid of the width on the Udemy logo and let's navigate to the laptop logo or laptop image. Let's be more precise. And let's add here that we would want width of 260. So let's notice what happens. Now, sure enough, I'm getting my width, and I right away, like I said, the height was adjusted. Now, if you still like to readjust the height specifically, so let's say the height in my case would be something like 100. Notice now I'm just gonna make sure that the height is 100. But again, if we're gonna get rid of this, then obviously we're just gonna have the width, and the height is gonna be adjusted automatically. And this is how we can basically the fastest way how we can readjust the height and the width on the image in the HTML. I couldn't be more proud of ourselves. We know how to use width and height, and now both of our images are rendered exactly the same. However, there's a big issue. Even though we change the width and height, or even if we do it in CSS, which again we'll learn later on, the browser is still rendering that massive image. And what happens is if you're going to have tons of massive images like this, then your user, whoever is going to be using or visiting your website, is going to experience very slow load times. And usually what happens, the user is going to wait for 3 seconds and then it's just going to leave and find a different page. So even though we have here width of 259 and 194, what we're actually rendering is still this guy with 1,668. And there's multiple things that we can do. In general, we would use some kind of application, whether that would be Photoshop or something like that, or there is maybe a quick way, meaning obviously it's not the best one, but let's say as we're working just with HTML and CSS, and we just want to quickly crop the image, we can use the actual Mac. Now, if you're using different operating system, you would have to research it, how it's done on, let's say, Windows. But on the Mac, it would be kind of simple. We're just going to look for what image we would like to crop. And as you notice, once I right click it, I have an option of open with. And once I navigate to the preview, I'm going to be given options. Now, within the options, I'm going to be looking for tools. And with the tools, we can just adjust the size. So this is the tab that we're going to be looking for. Now, the moment I'm going to click on it, notice here I can change the actual dimensions of the image. Now, here on the right side, you might be having different one. Let's say you might have percent or inches. I would suggest going for the pixels. And then if you have over here this lock, that means that if I'm going to change the width, the height is going to change automatically. So if I'm going to write 100, notice this is going to give me 67. Now, once you click on a lock, now you can change both of them. So in this case, maybe I can say that the height is still going to be 1,000, but the width is going to be 100. Now, again, this is really up to you, however you would like to do it. In this case, it doesn't really matter again. Let's say that I'm going to go with, again, 259, I believe, right? And let me log this. And notice I messed it up a little bit, sorry. 259, and this is going to give me 173. So I can just click on OK. Now this is going to quickly crop my image. And again, this is probably something you would do in production, but in general, just for projects, whatever we're going to be doing, this is going to be good enough where you don't need to learn how you can start using the actual Photoshop. Now I'm going to head over back to our project. Notice again, we have 259 by 173 instead of 1,000. And I can also get rid of maybe these guys. Again, it was a good thing to learn. It was beneficial for us, but in order to save our user a trip to a kitchen, let's say to make a coffee while our page loads, we can obviously just crop them images, and that way everything looks much nicer and also performs much nicer. While we're still on the topic of images, I would like to talk about path in general HTML. Now, in this example, we're going to look at the images and how the path is important for images. However, please remember, later on, we're going to be working with new pages, meaning there's going to be multiple pages that we're going to be working with, not just index.html. We're also going to have about as well as contact. So the same we're going to work with whenever we're working with HTML files or CSS files. Now, what I'm talking about. So let's say for now, again, we have two images. The world is great. We are good to go. However, imagine a site where you have 50 images and you have, I don't know, 25 CSS files, and then you have multiple JavaScript files. Now, what's going to happen is you're going to have to start having some kind of structure. Having all the files here in the folder is not going to make sense because it's going to be really messy. So the logical thing is going to be setting up, let's say, images to the side. So there's going to be special folder with images. And in reality, you're going to have images folder, and then within the images folder, you're going to have another folder for, let's say, homepage images, and then about images, and you get the point. Now, in our case, we're just going to start very simply. We're going to create a new folder. And let's say image folder name is going to be very simply images. Now, what I would like to do right now is move these images, because obviously that was the whole point. Now I can move them one by one, or I can just press on the second one as well as the first one. And in order to select them both, you would need to hold the command key. Now, once we hold it, notice I can just drag and drop them. And now I'm dropping them off in the images folder. So as you can see, Visual Studio Code is saying, hey, listen, buddy, are you sure this is what you would like to do? And I'm just going to bravely say, yep, this is exactly what I would like to do. And notice what happens. I have the heading 3, so that's good. I have the other heading 3, and I don't have my images. Now, again, the reason why I don't have the images because this path is correct only if the images are sitting in the same folder. Are they sitting in the same folder? Well, no, right now the images are in fact in the images folder. So what we would need to do is, again, we can obviously add it here, the extra path, or I'm just going to delete this because this is just going to make a little bit more sense. Again, we do the same thing. Now we do the forward slash. Now forward slash is going to go to where? Well, it's going to go to images folder. And now we're looking for the specific image we would want. So in our case, Udemy. So again, this is very important because you will going to use this for your CSS, for your JavaScript, for your images. Make sure that the path actually makes sense. If it is in a separate folder, you need to look in that folder and then you're going to get an image. Now let me fix this the same way. And again, like I said, we can just add it here. So let's say add it and images. And sure enough, once we do that, again, this is going to override it. So again, let's look for the laptop. And sure enough, this is going to be proper rendering option since now we have a proper path. So always, please remember to make sure that your path is correct. At this moment in time, our HTML document is small. I would even say tiny. So adding comments would probably be an overkill. However, as your projects are going to grow bigger in size, it's wise to have some kind of documentation what is happening in the project. And for this, we use the comments in HTML. Now, the syntax for the comment would be very simple. We have the angle bracket, then we're going to be looking for the exclamation mark, and then we have 2 dashes. Now, the moment you type that, as you notice, you're having this green line. So now whatever we're going to write is not going to be shown on a web page. So in order to test it out, we can just say hello there. And notice the moment I'm going to save it, it's not going to be shown here on a web page. Now, again, we can write here a novel if we would like to, but in general, you would just write some kind of comments about what is happening, whether you're working with the team or whether you're just working on this by yourself. Because trust me, if you'll work on something, let's say 2 weeks ago, and then again, you load the file and you're starting going through, comments really help you to get up and running of what's happening in your project. Because even though you created it, trust me, 2 weeks later, it's going to be hard for you to remember. Now, we also have an option of just creating comments with a shortcut. And that shortcut would be very simple. We would have to press Command and then forward slash. Now, the forward slash is going to be left from your Shift key. And just like that, again, we have the comment. So let's say here I could say Udemy image. Then we're going to head over to where the second heading 3 is. And again, I'm going to create another comment. And let's say laptop image. Again, in this case, this would be clearly an overkill but in general, this is how we would work with comments. Now, I also would like to show you how we can use the line break, because having a comment is one thing. Oh, you know what? No, I forgot to tell you something. We also have an option of adding the code within the comment that we would like to hide for that particular time. So let's say that I would like to just check how this image of the laptop was going to look like. However, I wouldn't want to delete the Udemy altogether. So what we can do over here is we can create a comment. And as you can see, this would be my comment. And if I'm going to place whatever HTML elements I would like within this comment, they're not going to be displayed on a page. So for now, I just cut them out and copy and paste them in here. Now notice, first of all, they're green. So we can see already that they're not going to be rendered. And the moment I'm going to save this, check this out. So obviously I don't have this anymore rendered image. Now, obviously, if you would like to render it again, just delete the comments and everything is going to be working fine. So that's another use where you would use a comment where, let's say you would like to test something out, how something looks, but you don't want to delete that other part. Then you would just basically comment it out. Now, like I said, back to the line breaks, because as you can see, even though I'm adding here, let's say more space in my HTML, obviously nothing is happening in my web page, because again, HTML would be white space collapsing. So instead, we would need to use the element, and the element would be line break. Now, the syntax for the line break would be very simple. We would just need to write BR, and again, we can use Emmet for that, obviously. And obviously, if I'm going to press on it, notice this. So now I'm starting to get some kind of line breaks. Now that obviously is only one break, so let me just copy and paste it to add a few more, just so we can see for sure that we have more. So 1, 2, 3, so 4 something. And the moment I'm going to save it, notice I'm getting line breaks. Now that would work whether in between the image and having 3, as well as if we're going to add some line breaks over here. So again, let me just cut this out or copy and paste it, and we can do the same thing over here. And obviously, the more line breaks you're going to add, apologize, then the more space you're going to have in between. Alrighty then, by now we know that images are important. However, what's also important for every web page is to have some kind of link. Now that could be a navigation link when we were going to be navigating throughout our project. That could be the link within the actual single page, or it can be also the external link. So let's say our user can visit, I don't know, Facebook or Google or whatever, some kind of external information. Now, as you can see right away, I did some spring cleaning here because I usually like my tutorial screens kind of just bare minimum, because I think it's just going to help us all if we're not going to clutter here. Now, obviously, it's a different scenario whenever we're going to be working with a project, because there's going to be tons of information. But for tutorial, I always like to have it as clean as possible. Now, what about the links? How we can create links in HTML? Well, we already know the deal, right? We need to have some kind of tags, and then we're going to place the link within a tag. Now, what tag would be for the link? What would be the element name? Well, for the link, we're going to use a, and sure enough, right away, we're going to have our link available. Now, within the link tags, this is where we'll write the text. So let's say visit Udemy for more information. Now, as you can see, this one came out really long link, and sure enough, now I have my link. Now, what's going to happen once I click this link? Well, let's think about it. If I'm going to click on it, where I'm going to go? So I click on it and nothing happens. Okay, the reason why nothing happens is because we also need to fill out the href attribute, which comes right away with Emmet, because they are doing all the work for us. So if we would manually be creating this, obviously we would have to write the href attribute ourselves. Now, the href attribute tells us where the user or whoever clicks on this link is going to be navigating to. So here we would need to write the URL. Now here we can just say HTTPS and then the whole deal. Or if you don't want to make mistakes, or maybe you don't know the full URL, maybe it's really long, you can just head over to whatever URL you're searching for, which in my case would be Udemy. So I can just copy and paste this, and we can head over back to the href and paste it within the quotation marks. And now once I save it, then the user should be available, or user should be able to go to Udemy. So as I click on it, notice now we're navigating to Udemy page. Now there's one thing though. you probably don't want user to leave your site because at this moment, notice we went to Udemy, but we left the site that we were currently on. So maybe it's better if we would add the attribute, and the attribute name is target, and we would need to set this to blank. So underscore blank. So this would be the value. Now, in this case, what's going to happen? And first of all, I would need to navigate back. And what I would like to do right now with target blank is whenever a user is going to click on a link, instead of navigating, and this didn't happen because I needed to refresh probably or something like that. So I have target blank, visit Udemy for more. Everything is saved. And sure enough, now once I click on a link, instead of navigating away from the site that the user is currently on, we're opening up the link in the new browser tab. So this probably should be a better option, especially with an external ones where we're adding this target attribute as well as we're setting it equal to blank. Sure thing. Now we know how to create external links. Well, what about internal links? Well, you see, at the moment we have only one homepage, but eventually for the project, let's say we're going to have the about page, the contact page. So we would need to set up some kind of navigation. But in order to set up the navigation, we would need to have the links that would point to those pages. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, let's create that new page. Let's say the new page is going to be about HTML. Now we already know how to create a structure. So again, we're just going to have a simple exclamation mark. And then let's say in the title, let's write now document. And let's say about. Then we're going to know that we're navigating to about page. And then right away, let's create, first of all, a link that's going to be pointing back to the home page. So as we know, again, it's going to be very simple. We just have the link, and then here we're going to be pointing to somewhere. Now, in this case, we're not pointing back to the Udemy. In this case, we're going to say where we would like to go. And in our case, we would like to go back to the home page. So as you can see, we just need to point to the correct file. Where is the home page? And let's write here back to home page, because that's going to be enough. Now, also, I would like to remind you or to show you that we can write anything within the link. What's important is the href. So regardless of what we write over here, we're going to be navigating to whatever we're pointing to in an href. So just because we're saying here, let's say, go to Udemy, doesn't mean that we're going to go to Udemy. This is just going to be text that's being rendered. Now, once we have our about HTML set up, we'll head over back to index.html and maybe somewhere on the top of the image. Again, we're going to create a new link. And in this case, we're going to be navigating to about HTML. So within the home page, we're going to be pointing to about page. And let's say about page or just about is going to be good enough. Now let's save this. And sure enough, now I have my link. Now, in this case, if I'm going to click on the about, notice I'm navigating to the about page, since I know that, first of all, the title is different, as well as I have my link. And if I'm going to click on the about page, then I'm going to navigate back to the home page. So this is how we set up links internally within our project. Good enough. We know how to set up external links as well as internal links that will allow us to navigate throughout our project. However, let me show you the case where we would want to use some kind of link within the actual page that we're working on. Now, for this example, you have two options. Either you can create a paragraph with some kind of long lorem text. So let's say 5,000 words or something like this. So that is going to create very, very long text. Or we can say some kind of line break. Now I'm going to use the line break example, but again, it doesn't really matter what you do. Now, before that, we need to set up some kind of paragraph where in the paragraph, let's say some text here. So this is going to be my paragraph. And then maybe right after the paragraph, let's just create a simple link tag for now. Again, this is not going to point anywhere, but we're going to write back to the top. Again, doesn't really matter what we write, but we should have some kind of link. Now, okay, like I said, I'm going to use the line breaks, but you can create a new paragraph and add some kind of text. Now, what I'm trying to show you, let's say I'm going to have one line break. However, I'm going to copy and paste it and make like, I don't know, 50 or 60 of them. Let's save this and what we have right now. So we have the page, and let's imagine that this would be some kind of long content. Again, it can be anything, the text, it can be images, it doesn't matter. The point of this is the user needs to start scrolling down because the user is reading this content, then scrolling down, and all the way in the bottom, we have some text here. Now, what do you think? What would be a better user experience? To tell the user to scroll back up. And again, imagine this being really long scrolling, not just what we are doing right now, or to have some kind of link that would navigate back to the top of the page. Well, I think the link would be a better option, right? So how do we set it up? Now, in this case, the link is going to be pointing back to ID. Now, I know we haven't covered the ID, and I would like to cover ID in more detail once we cover the CSS, because I would like to cover it together with classes. But for now, only thing we need to do is instead of pointing to some kind of external resource or internally to the page, we need to have this hashtag, and then we would have the ID name. So here I'm going to write top. Now, what hasn't happened yet is I haven't created this some kind of div or whatever, any kind of element that has this ID of top. So I'm going to head over back to the top of my page and maybe where I have the about. Before that, I'm going to create a heading 1. And within the heading 1, I'm going to say top of the page. Now, what I would need for this element is to have this attribute of the ID. And again, I'm going to cover IDs in more detail once we start learning with CSS, because I think it's just going to make a little bit more sense. But with an ID, now we would need to have the name. And since I'm pointing here with an href to the top ID, obviously this would also have to have the same name if you would want this to work. So here I'm going to write top. Now what's going to happen in this case, and maybe let's add a little bit more line breaks just so you believe me that this is actually happening. So let's add more line breaks. And as you can see right now, I have to do more scrolling. But the moment I'm going to click on it, as you see, I'm navigating back to the top of the page. So this is how we would set up the internal links within the actual page, where we would have some type of element. And again, it can be any kind of element that we're going to have the ID. And once we have the link, if we're pointing this link to that particular element, and obviously the names need to match. Don't write here, I don't know, John Doe, because this is not going to make sense. Then if the names match, we will going to be navigating to that particular part of the page. Up until now, all our examples with links were with text. So we had some kind of link, and then we placed the text within the link, and then obviously the link was displayed, and we were navigating somewhere. However, we also have option for placing different things within the link. So we're just not limited to the text. So let's test it out. So let's say here on top of the page, and again, this is just so we can see a little bit clearer. Let's place a link. And for now, let's say the link is going to be, I don't know, going to the same thing, maybe udemy.com. Again, just to save me a little bit of time, I'm just going to grab this text. You can obviously write it if you want, but I'm just going to copy and paste it. And instead of placing the text of Udemy or John Doe, whatever we would like to place there, we can place an image. So let's say here I'm going to have the image. We know that we need to have the image element. Within the image element, we're going to have a source. Now, in this case, let's look for the images. Now, within the images folder, we also have an option for laptop. So I'm just going to grab this image, and you know what, just so it looks a little bit better. Again, let's add maybe a width of 200. So it's going to be a little bit smaller. I'm going to skip on alternative attribute, and let's see what's going to happen. So as you can see right now, I have the image. The difference though is as I'm scrolling, or as I'm hovering over the image, check this out. So I have this little icon that tells me that pretty much this is a link. Now, as I'm hovering over the Udemy image, things like that don't happen. So what this means is that this is actually a link right now. So if I click on it, sure enough, I'm navigating to Udemy page. Now, last but not least, now that we know that we can also place an images within the link, we're not limited to text. I also want to show you that, let's say, if you don't know right now at this point where your link should be navigating. Let's say you know that there's going to be a link on a page. However, you don't know right now the URL. What we can always do, we can just place a hashtag, And that way we can be having a link. So it's going to be a link. It's going to be displayed as a link and it's going to be clickable and everything, but it's not going to navigate anywhere. So that's also an option. I mean, again, you can call this however you'd like. This could be an empty link. This could be a dummy link. It doesn't really matter. The main point is instead of placing the URL within the href, we're just placing a hashtag. Job well done. We covered links in the HTML. Now I'd like to switch gears a little bit and take it easy on us. So first I would like to just get rid of all this information. Because like I said, I would like to keep this clean. So everything within the body, I'm just going to delete. And the moment, obviously, I'm going to save it, I'm going to have the blank page. And here within my text editor, I would like to talk about sup and sub elements. And they're all going to be as straightforward as it gets. So let's say we're going to have creating a heading 1. And within the heading 1, I'm going to say, hello, I am. And here I would like to say first John in town. Now I could obviously write it like this. I can say first John in town, or I can use sup and sub elements. And again, this is going to be as straightforward as it gets. So first of all, let me create a little bit of space. And as I stop typing, notice again, I'm getting from the Emmett suggestion. Now, what I would like to do right now is grab this first and place it within the sup. And again, you're going to see it in a second what happens. So I'm going to spare us a little bit of time. And let's just create these elements first. And then obviously it's going to be very clear of what is happening with these elements. So we don't have to spend hours and hours of talking about it. Instead, we can just look at it. So in this case, I'm going to use the sub element where the first one was sup and the second one was sub. Now, the moment I'm going to save it, notice what happens. So I'm having my text and then everything that's going to be placed within the sup is going to be here on the top of the rest of the text. And everything that's going to be placed in the bottom is obviously going to be here in the bottom, meaning everything that's going to be placed in the sub element is going to be eventually shown in the bottom of the rest of the text. So like I said, as straightforward as it gets. If you ever need it, you can use sup and sub elements. Good. We know how to use sup and sub elements. Next, let's look at how we can work with strong and emphasis elements. Again, we're going to do the same old spiel where I'm going to create some kind of paragraph. And let's say within the paragraph, I'm going to say, I don't know, 30 words. I think that's going to be more than enough. And then if I would like to use the strong and elements, we're just going to have to create them somewhere within this paragraph. Again, they can be really anywhere. Just make sure if you would like to have the Emmett suggestion, you need to make like a little bit of space. As you can see, if I press spacebar, then this is going to create a space, and now I can write whatever element I would like to have. So since I'm looking for the strong element, this is where I would like to place some text. So again, I'm just going to grab whatever text I would like over here, be it 3 words or the whole sentence, it doesn't really matter. And the moment we're going to copy and paste it, notice that the text that is within strong tags is bold. Now let me cover emphasis, and then we're going to go a little bit more detail because there's more than meets the eye with these 2 elements. So let's say, again, we're going to pick some words, again, whatever amount of words we would like. So let's say M, so that would stand for emphasis. And let's say, in this case, pick a little bit more words and just copy and paste it. And sure enough, as you can see right now, the text that is within the emphasis element is right now displayed italic. So it's a little bit slanted. Now, the key with these 2 elements is, like I said, there's more than meets the eye because we could have achieved this simply using the CSS. And in general, you would always prefer CSS just because you want to have all your styles in one place and serve as HTML just for the structure. You don't want to mix and match them. Now, in this case, however, is the fact that within strong and within EM elements, meaning emphasis elements, also help us with accessibility. So let's say you have a user who is accessing your project with a screen reader, then the screen reader is going to treat this differently. Let's say whatever is within the strong as well as whatever we have within the emphasis. So that's always, you should keep an eye on wherever you're working with strong and emphasis elements. There's going to be some cases where we would like to use special characters in HTML. So maybe let's look at it, how we can work with them and how we can access them. So first and foremost, let me get rid of this paragraph We're not going to need it right now. As well as let's create a heading one maybe. And you know what? I didn't want to delete the body. So let me just go back. And here, let's say that there's going to be heading one. And within the heading one, we would like to use the copyright special character. So I can just write over here, copy, right? So some kind of text. And then how I would access the special characters in HTML. Well, first of all, I would have to access the ampersand sign. And if you know that you would need to do the shift, as well as on my keyboard, at least it's above the number 7. So notice now I'm getting my ampersand sign. And next, I would need to come up with the name that I would be looking for. So obviously, I already know that I'm going to be looking for copy. And check it out. I would need to write whatever the character I'm looking for. And then I would like to use the semicolon. So the moment we're going to save it, I'm going to have the whatever text I had, as well as the special character. Now you can look for special characters, obviously online. There's a bunch of tables that give you all kinds of names. I'm not going to go through those tables. It's really going to be time consuming and a lot of wasted time. Just remember that whenever you would be looking for some kind of special character, again, you can just Google HTML special characters, and it's going to give you tons and tons of options that you can place it within your HTML element. But again, the syntax would be exactly the same. We would have the ampersand. Again, we would know some kind of name or number that we're looking for, and we would finish off with a semicolon, and then we're going to have this special character displayed in our HTML document. A very useful element in the HTML is unordered lists and ordered lists. Now, how do we create unordered lists and ordered lists in the HTML? Well, first of all, we would need, again, the element, and the element name for the unordered list would be UL. And sure enough, right now I have my unordered list. However, if I would want to have some kind of items within the unordered list, I would need to use the li element. So the syntax would be for unordered list, we would have the unordered list element, and then each and every element within this unordered list, we're going to have the li element. And here we can write whatever we would like. So let's say we're just going to have some kind of name, and I have right now the list item with this bulletin point shown as the list item. Now, if I would like to copy and paste them, so let's say I'm going to create 2 more. Second one is going to be Peter, and third one is going to be Sarah. I'm going to have these 3 list items displayed as unordered list. Now, the question would be, well, where are we going to use the list? Well, biggest one where we always use the unordered list would be for navigation. So for now, obviously, we only have the about page, but imagine that we're going to have multiple pages. We can just place our links here. So either we can create a new one, or I can just delete these guys. Let's say let's delete Peter. Let's also delete Sarah. And within the list item, within the unordered list, instead of placing some kind of text, we can place a link. Now, again, I'm going to use just an empty link or a dummy link. And let's write here home. Then let's grab this link and let's just copy and paste it within the next 2 list items. And let's just write over here about, as well as, I don't know, contact would be our third one. Since we do have the about, maybe we can also write the about, but I'm not going to navigate there. Again, we already covered this with the links. Now, the moment we save this, notice we have our navigation. Now, obviously, keep in mind, we haven't added any kind of CSS yet. This is where the magic happens when we go to the CSS and start styling. But in general, this would be our navigation, where if I'm going to click on it, notice obviously I'm going to go to the about page, as well as I have the other links displayed as list items within my unordered list. Similarly, we can also create ordered lists. So first, let me just delete the unordered list. And again, syntax would be exactly the same. The difference would be we're not looking for the unordered list, which has the element name of UL. We're looking for the ordered list. The element name would be OL. And here again, we're going to do the li. And again, maybe let's write some dummy text. So the first ordered list item would be John. Then the second one will be Peter. And the third one, we're going to have Sarah. And let's see what we're going to have. Not Seri, but Sarah. And the moment we save it, notice that this would be number 1, number 2, and number 3. Again, the same idea as with unordered list. However, we would need to use the different element name, and then we would have the ordered list instead of unordered list. We also have an option of creating the nested list. So let me again delete the ordered list first, and let's create a new unordered list. But again, it would work exactly the same way with both of them. So again, the syntax was UL, and then within the unordered list, we have the list item. And again, let's start first with John, then copy and paste it. And the second one is going to be Peter and Sarah. So our simple unordered list and Sarah. But let's say that we would like to add some more specific information about Peter. And in our case, the fact that he already knows HTML and CSS. Now within the list item, so within the list item where we would like to have our nested list, we were going to create either unordered list or ordered list. So in our case, let's switch it up a little bit and have it as a ordered list. And again, we're going to have a list item. Now in our case, let's say first one is going to be HTML, and let's copy and paste it. And the second one is going to be the CSS. So the moment we're going to save our HTML document, we will going to have John. Then the Peter is going to have already the nested list, where not only he has a list item with just the name, we're also going to have our ordered list within this list item. And this is how this is going to be displayed. And again, you can get really creative with that if you'd like, but just to let you know that this would also be your option. We also have an option of creating the nested list. So let me again delete the ordered list first, and let's create a new unordered list. But again, it would work exactly the same way with both of them. So again, the syntax was UL, and then within the unordered list, we have the list item. And again, let's start first with John, then copy and paste it. And the second one is going to be Peter and Sarah. So our simple unordered list and Sarah. But let's say that we would like to add some more specific information about Peter. And in our case, the fact that he already knows HTML and CSS. Now within the list item, so within the list item where we would like to have our nested list, we were going to create either unordered list or ordered list. So in our case, let's switch it up a little bit and have it as a ordered list. And again, we're going to have a list item. Now in our case, let's say first one is going to be HTML, and let's copy and paste it. And the second one is going to be the CSS. So the moment we're going to save our HTML document, we will going to have John. Then the Peter is going to have already the nested list, where not only he has a list item with just the name, we're also going to have our ordered list within this list item. And this is how this is going to be displayed. And again, you can get really creative with that if you'd like, but just to let you know that this would also be your option. If in your project, you're going to have to use some kind of table, we also have an option of working with tables in HTML. Now, before we do that, obviously, as always, we'll need to get rid of this unordered list first, and then let's start working with our table element. Now, if you would have to guess how we would have to create the table element in HTML with everything that we already know so far. Well, I think you probably guessed it correctly where you said, well, first we're going to have to create the table element. And then obviously for each and every table, we would have the rows as well as we would have the columns, right? So in order to create a row, we would need to create a row element. And then within the row, this is where we would create our data. And again, whatever columns we would like to create, meaning if you would want to have 10,000 columns or if you would have 4 columns. The same thing would work where we would have the table data element. And then within the table data, this is where we write our information. Again, let's just have some kind of dummy text with the John, and this is going to be my table data. So if we're going to copy and paste it again, and let's say the second one would be Peter, then again, Sarah, and again, for the HTML tutorial, I don't see the point of coming up with some kind of exclusive examples. This is just going to give you general understanding of what's happening. So the moment table data I'm going to be adding, meaning the more columns I'm going to be adding, then obviously the more columns are going to be displayed. Now we also have an option of having the table headings. So in our case, we're going to have, let's say, TR, and within the first table row, we have a element of TH, which would stand for table head. And within the table head, we can write again whatever we would like. So I'm just going to say here some info, and we're going to copy and paste it. And now I'm going to have 3 table headings. as well as 3 regular columns in the second row. And if I would like to create more rows, I would just have to create again new row element and just keep on adding the table data elements. For every web page, there in most cases is always a form that allows us to collect some kind of data. Whether you want user to sign up for something or whether you just want this personal information, his or hers, you would need to set up the form. Now, how do we set up the form in the HTML? As always, we're going to have, first of all, the form element. And now within the form element, notice we're going to have the action. Now, I need to tell you right away that whenever we're working with forms in HTML and CSS, we will just going to be displaying because we're all going to be working only with the front end. Now, in order to collect the data, you would need to work with the backend language, like, for example, PHP. So in our case, this action, as well as there's going to be another one that you're going to see a lot, which would be the method, is not going to mean anything because, again, we're not going to collect the form. And there's also going to be few attributes that in our case are not going to make any kind of changes. But later on, as you're working with PHP or JavaScript, this will going to make sense. Now, what we were going to do later on as we're working with CSS projects, so not HTML projects, but CSS projects, we were going to use the service called FormSpree, which is for free, by the way. So again, don't freak out. You're not going to have to pay anything. But this service, the FormSpree, is going to allow us to have our form, but the data is going to be submitted to our email. So as you see, they're still using the action and they're still using the method. And just to quickly go over, action basically would mean where this information would be sent, and the method would mean how this information is going to be processed. And with the post request, you basically would be adding information to the server. Again, I digress a little bit, but just to give you a general idea. Now, like I said, we're going to keep on working with the form. So the first thing that I would want to look at is the input, because that's going to be our most basic type of form input that we're going to have is just a general input. Now, with an input, you're having multiple types. You can have, let's say, input as an email, but the most basic one is going to be text. So in this case, we can just write text. And the moment we're going to press tab or enter, we're going to be getting this form with, let's say, type, like I said, text, which would be the most basic one. And we have a few more attributes. Now, again, name attribute is going to be used whenever we're collecting the data, because this is something that's going to be shown. Again, in our case, we can write whatever we would like over here and nothing is going to change. Now, the ID is going to be used for label, which is I'm going to show you in a second. But for now, let's say that I would want to save it. And as you can see right now, we're having our first input. So I can obviously go ahead over here and type whatever I would like, but nothing is happening. Now, for every element that we're going to have in the form, meaning the input element, we also would like to have the submission. And when I said for every, meaning for every form out there, you would also want to submit it, right? Otherwise, what good does it make if you have the form, but you cannot submit it? Now, again, I'm going to repeat, in our case, we're not going to be collecting the data, but I would still like to create the form submit elements because you're going to need them later on anyway. Now we have two options. We can use just a simple button. So let's say we have the button, and within the button, we can write type. And for the type, we would have to write submit. Now, if you're using the button, then obviously we're going to write our values in between the button element. And if I didn't cover before in the HTML, the button, again, button would be extremely straightforward. We just write the name of the element, which in our case would be button. And then we have multiple types of button. So in our case, this would be the submit button. So as you can see right now, the submit button is shown. Now, if you would like to have some kind of space in between them, for now, we're going to use the actual line break. But later on, as we start working with divs, we're going to see how we can use this using the divs. So the moment I'm going to save it, I'm going to have my input. I can write whatever I would like to have in my input, and I can start clicking submit. Now, for now, what's happening is the form is being submitted back to the same page. Again, this is what happens if we just leave this blank. So you can just write some kind of value, click on submit. Notice we're going to have our name here. But again, we're not going to work with this right now. But in general, the form is going to be empty again because we have resubmitted this to the same old page. Now we also have an option of input of submit. So not only the button, but also input. So let me first comment this out. And let's write that this is going to be input. And for the input, I would like to have again the options. So maybe we can just type the input first and notice if I'm not selecting with Emmet what kind of input I'm gonna have the general text. But here I'm gonna change this and I'm gonna say that this is not gonna be equal to text. It's gonna be equal to the submit. Now, the moment we're gonna save it, see this? We have right now our submit. Now, this is all working great and fine. However, I also would like to see what's happening with the ID. Now, ID is going to be used for label element. So above the input, let's write that there's going to be a label element. And within the label element, we have the attribute of for. Now, within the for, this is where we are targeting the ID. So in our case, if we know that the ID eventually is going to be the name, which is going to be the value, then the moment I'm going to have the for attribute, I'm going to have to add the same ID that I have for the input that I'm targeting. And let's say here I'm going to write first name. So this would be in my label. Now, what's happening with the label then, as I'm clicking on the label, notice right now my input is going to be highlighted. And if I'm going to change this, if let's say I'm going to make a mistake and this is not going to be name, we can click all day long and the label is not going to be highlighted. So that would be the purpose for the label. As well as we have other options. Let's say we can have the paragraph. So we don't have to work with label, although in most cases it does make sense if we're actually implementing the label whenever we're working with input. So now let's look at other options that we have for the input. And again, we're not going to cover all of them, but let's look at more popular ones, which would be password and email. So again, the same old deal. We can write input first of all, and then for input, we can either use the emment where we have just the colon and then we're picking, or we can just have the general input type and then change it. So in our case, let's write that we would be looking for the password. And again, we can write the name, or we can have two options here. So in this case, since we're not going to be using the name attribute anyway, we're not going to be collecting the data. Maybe let's write above the input that there's going to be a paragraph, and let's write password. So again, we're not limited to just using the label. We can just use the simple paragraph, and we're still going to have the input. Now, maybe to have it displayed a little bit better, let's add the line break first. So this is going to be our submit, and then what we're going to have within the password. Now we have two options. We can either write a placeholder. So let's write a password, and the placeholder is basically going to be displayed just to give you a general idea what the user should be typing. However, the moment I'm going to start typing, notice first of all, the password or the placeholder is going to disappear, as well as with a type of password input, our inputs are going to be hidden. So there's going to be just these little bulletin points. Now, I also have an option of the value. So the value attribute for the input. And to show you how the value attribute works, again, let's create a new input. And for this, we're going to write first of all line break. And in between these two line breaks, let's create the input with an email. And maybe in this case, let's use the semicolon, or I'm sorry, colon. And let's say that we're going to be looking for the input type of email. Again, name doesn't really matter for us. ID as well, if we're not using the label. And also, I need to let you know that not only for the label, we can use the ID. It's obviously can be used whenever we're working with JavaScript. That's also another option. But again, I digress a little bit. And within the input type of email, we will going to have to submit the correct email, meaning there has to be an @ sign. So if I'm going to try to submit something that doesn't make sense, so let's write maybe email, I don't know, email, then as I'm going to be clicking submit, notice there's just going to be a little bit of HTML validation where it's going to say, well, you cannot submit because there's @ missing, the @ symbol is missing in your input type of email. So if we're going to write something like some gibberish like email @ email, that could be an option. So let's say email @ email. Again, this is not going to validate the actual correct email, but we will going to be able to submit right now because we did add this @ symbol. And last, within just simple input types, I would like to point you to the value. So the value attribute is going to allow us to hard code something. And that in most cases, you would use something like this whenever you would like to have some kind of data already. So let's say you're editing something. So there has to be some kind of data that's already being passed on. So let's say in here, I could write email@email.com or something like this, whatever we would like here, whatever we would like to write here within this value. And sure enough, right now I have already hard coded data. Now, the difference between the placeholder and hard coded data, that the moment you start working with the placeholder is going to disappear. With the hard coded data, this is already going to stay. So with the value is going to be actually displayed. Now, where we could use the value, well, as you can see here, we have the input type and the type was submit. But what if I would like to change the text? Because by default, we're having here this submit. So here I can just say value and let's say submit, please. Again, whatever we would like to write over here, it doesn't really matter. And the moment we're going to save it, obviously, I'm going to be having the submit, please. So these would be the basics of how we can work with input types. And again, we would first need to have some kind of type. And the most simplest one is going to be text. Then we're going to have usually a name attribute, which we will use only when we are submitting the data. So whenever we're collecting the data. And then we have an option for the ID attribute. The ID attribute we can use with the label, or if we're going to be working with the JavaScript, then for the label, it will allow us to click on the label. And if the IDs match with the for attribute, then the form is going to be highlighted. With the password, we're going to have our bulletin points. So the password is going to be hidden. For the placeholder, the information is going to be before the user types anything. But the moment you start typing, obviously the placeholder is going to disappear. Now the value is going to give us the hard-coded values whenever the form is shown right away. So I can obviously submit this also with hard-coded data, but it's still going to show up right away because I still have my value. And we have two types of options of how we can submit the data, whether that would be the input with the type of input, as well as just a button with a type of submit button. Input elements are not the only thing that we can display within the form. So let's look at the other popular ones. Now, with your permission, I'm just going to continue working with the same file. Again, if you would like to access the resources of the previous video, you can just download resources for the previous video. But after the email input, we're just going to look at the few other more popular ones. Now, the first one is going to be text area, where we can have some longer description. And you can already see that right away as we start typing with them. And this gives us few attributes that we haven't seen before. Now, first one would be columns, and the second one is going to be the rows. So let's say we would like to have some kind of description. Check this out. So again, this is not going to be styled very nicely right now because we have everything all over the place. But let's say that if we would like to have some kind of line break in between them, again, just for styling for now, we will going to have our description, let's say here, and maybe we can just add the paragraph of description, and we can obviously write our description within our text area. And columns would mean how many columns. So if I'm going to say 40, I'm going to have 40 columns. If I'm going to say 20, I'm going to have 20 columns, and the same thing would go for a row. Now, also we have the radio buttons. And for the radio buttons, what's unique is that you can have only one value, meaning you can submit one value. That's the whole point of the radio button. Now, you don't have to specifically do it that way, but that would make sense since they obviously were designed for that. Now, again, let me add another line break just so it's going to be displayed better. And let's say that we're going to have a paragraph which asks, please select your favorite coding language. So hopefully this is written correctly. Once we have our paragraph created for us, what is your most favorite coding language? Let's also maybe add a question mark. It's going to make a little bit more sense. And then we are going to be working with input type of radio. So again, we can use the semicolon, or we can just create a basic one and change it. So I'm going to use the right away emmet. And here I'm going to have the name and ID. Now I'm not going to need any of them for now, meaning I will going to use later on name, but for now I'm not going to use it. And let's just write that this is going to be JavaScript. So once I'm going to save it, notice I'm going to have my radio button, and there's going to be some kind of value. Now the thing is, with the radio buttons, the names should match, because the whole idea behind radio button is the fact is that you would just choose one of them. Later on, you will gonna have select boxes where we can pick multiple. But if you would like to use radio button, the name of the input should match. Now, how this is gonna look like. So first of all, let me copy and paste this. So let's say there's gonna be 3 of them. And let's write that the second one is gonna be Java language. And the third one we're gonna have as Python. Python. Now, the moment I'm gonna save this, I'm gonna have an option of choosing one over here. Because again, the idea would be that if I'm selecting something. Now, you also would want, as you're submitting it, as some kind of value, because you not only would want to click on the radio button, you would like to collect the value. So in our case, we're going to hard code that this is going to be JavaScript. Now, obviously, value has to match to whatever you would like to submit. If you would like to submit some kind of John Doe, obviously, you would need to write it in the value John Doe. So in our case, for the Java, we're going to write over here Java. So this is going to be my value, as well as for the Python, we're going to copy and paste it. And here we're going to write Python. I hope you understand the whole purpose of this, since you would want to submit this kind of data, whether this is going to be the JavaScript language or Java language, and the radio button is going to allow you to choose which one you're submitting. However, the value is going to be the one that's passed on whenever we are adding this information to the data. This is just showing what the user is picking. So again, in our case, we're not using the actual value for now, but it's obviously important to use it later on as you're actually submitting the data. Now, if you mess up here with this name, remember the name attribute, all of them need to match. Because if I'm going to do like this, if I'm going to say that, let's say the second one is going to be not coding, it's going to be coding. And if we're going to save it, now the trick here is that I can pick JavaScript and I can pick Java. And this is not something we would want with radio button, because the whole idea is to use checkboxes for that. Okay, so your next question probably is, well, what is checkboxes and how do we start using them? Well, again, we're going to do the same old deal where we have, first of all, probably some kind of line break in between so we can see a little bit better. And let's say, again, before the submit and right after the radio button, let's add the line break. And we're going to have to, again, have the input. Now, in this case, this is going to be checkbox. So again, we're not looking for the radio. This is going to be the checkbox. And you know what? Right away, also, let's add the paragraph and let's write the same old deal that we had before. So with your permission, I'm just going to copy and paste this just so we save a little bit of time. As well as you notice, we have the type of checkbox. And now, again, we have the same old deal where we have the name as well as the value. So what do you think for the value, what we would like to write? I think we can do the same thing, right? So we have the value, first of all, is going to be JavaScript. That's going to be the first thing that's going to be passed on, as well as we would need to write the actual JavaScript here. So I'm going to say, you know what? Okay, so this is going to be JavaScript. Now, the difference with actual checkboxes is that we can pick multiple. So let's say we're going to change, first of all, the name to programming. Again, this is going to be our name, programming. And let me make sure that I write this correctly. And now let's copy and paste this. Let's say 1, 2, 3. And you know what? I did one too many. So let's first of all change whatever value we have, because obviously we don't want 2 JavaScripts or 3 JavaScripts in our case. We would want only 2, meaning, sorry, we would want only 1. And let's change the second one to Java. This is also going to be value of Java. Value of Python. And again, I know I'm repeating this, but the values we're going to use only when we're submitting data. For now, you could write whatever you would like over there. And let's write Python right over here. And what we have here is the checkboxes. However, with checkboxes, we can click multiple. So we can choose, let's say that our favorite languages are going to be all 3 of them. So that would be the biggest difference between checkboxes and the radio buttons. The simple fact that with checkboxes, we can click multiple, we can choose multiple, but with the radio buttons, the whole idea is that you're just choosing one. Okay, so we also have an option of select. So select would be something like a drop-down menu or something like that. So again, same old deal, right after the Python, Let's create maybe in this case, again, the paragraph. Again, the paragraph is going to same old deal. We're going to ask the same old question because again, I don't see the point of being really creative during the tutorial right now because the most important thing is to understand the general concept. And for the select box, this would be different where again, we create an element and the element is going to be select. And here we would need to write, let's say what kind of name it would be. Now we're going to write again, languages, and we can just leave the ID for now empty. You know what? One last thing that I wanted to show you with checkboxes, we also have an option of checked. So if we have checked already the checkbox, let's say by default, we can add an attribute. So for this, I'm gonna head over back to, let's say, my first one, and we have the attribute of checked, and we can just leave it like this, or we can set it equal to checked. It's gonna work exactly the same way. So notice now, once I have the checked for the JavaScript is going to be automatically checked. Now I can still uncheck it, but by default, it's going to be checked since we added this attribute. And we can add this attribute to all of them if you want. And sometimes you're going to see the long way written, not the HTML, where we're going to be looking for checked is going to be equal to checked. Again, this would mean exactly the same thing as just having it checked like this. So let's get rid of this. And now let's finish off with the select. Now within the select, we have options. Those would be something similar like you have with order node list. Remember, you had the list items. So the same deal would work with select, where within the select, there's an option element. Now within the option element, again, we're working with the values. So we're saying, okay, what is the value here? Again, we're going to start with JavaScript, which again will be submitted. I know I've said this many times, but I just think that it's important to kind of get this point across where the value is going to be shown. So the text is going to be shown within the HTML, but the value is going to be something that's going to be submitted. Now, again, we have a few other options. So let me, you know what, maybe let me make this a little bit smaller on the right hand side so then we can see better. And if we copy and paste this multiple times, and again, we're going to do the same deal where we have Java, where we have also Python, and we also would like to change these values. So let's say Java, and last one, but not least, we have the Python. So this would be our drop-down menu. And you know what, maybe let's add a little bit more line break. And sure enough, now there's going to be a little bit more space. So if you want to click something, let's say again, we can choose Java, and this is going to work. So let's say if we want to test it a little bit, let me just write some mumbo jumbo gibberish here, add something to the email. This is going to work. This is going to be my description. Java, and something, let's say from the select is going to be selected as Java. And again, we can just submit. Now in the URL, we're going to see our key value pairs. If we're going to copy and paste it or whatever, if we're going to name this bigger, notice now these are going to be the value pairs, key value pairs that are going to be submitted. Again, in our case, we don't care about them. We only will going to care about them as we start working with some backend languages. But this would be the general principles of working with the forms and the HTML. Awesome. We're done covering the most important parts of HTML. Again, this is just my opinion. Obviously, you can find more and more information about more and more elements. But in my opinion, this would be more than enough to get up and running with HTML. Now, before we dive into our first HTML project, I would like to cover two things that I find really important regarding whether we are working with JavaScript, whether we're working with HTML or CSS. And those would be keyboard shortcuts as well as formatting our code. Now let's start with the easiest one, which would be formatting our code. So we already know that HTML is white space collapsing, right? So if we're going to write here, let's say paragraph, we're going to type some text, then I'm going to have more space and I'm going to type more text. I'm going to save it. The whole text is going to be displayed only with this one space since everything else is collapsed. However, as we're working in the project in our HTML, or I'm sorry, with our text editor, notice how this gets really annoying really fast, where we do have these spaces. And again, for now, we have what? We have body with one paragraph element. However, if I'm gonna add another one like that, if I'm gonna say again another paragraph, again times some mumbo jumbo gibberish, do something like this, and yada yada yada, what's gonna happen? Again, it's gonna get really hard to work. Now, granted, right now I'm obviously zooming in just so we can see everything better in the tutorial, but in general, you wouldn't want something like this because it's gonna make your life really hard. You are gonna get annoyed really, really quickly. So, what would be the solution for this? Well, you could say, I mean, geez, just don't do that. Just delete everything and make sure that everything is displayed correctly. And that is true. Yes, you could do that. However, there's a better way. There is a more automated way where I don't have to worry about what I'm doing, meaning whether I'm actually typing everything correctly. We can use the formatting for that. And in order to get up and running with the formatting, we would need to install another extension. So already we know the spiel. We're going to have to head over to this little icon, click on extensions. For now, we should have live server only installed, unless you installed something else. And here on the top search bar, we're going to write pre, and then we're going to be looking for two T's. This should gives us the prettier. This is what we're looking for to install. So we're going to click on this and we're going to install. However, before we installing or right after we installing, it doesn't really matter. They tell us to use this editor dot format on save. So this is something that we should also change in our settings. This is kind of important for this to work. So first of all, let's click on install. And let's see, by the time this is going to be done installing, I'm probably going to tell you my whole life story. Well, hopefully not, but as you can see, it takes for some reason quite a long time. So hopefully it will going to be done installing. And sure enough, it does. So now I can reload my text editor. So first of all, this is going to be my first point. Then I would like to close probably these extensions. We can just go back again to our folder structure. And now let's navigate to the settings. And again, we're going to have to look for two things. So first one is going to be editor format on save. So we can just write editor. And you know what? This is not going to give me what I wanted. This probably would work better here in the JSON object. Let's just write format on save. So this should give us an option. And this is what I was looking for. So we have format on paste and format on save. So now I would like to click both of them. And again, since this is going to auto save, we don't need to save it anywhere else. And now let's go back to our file. So what's going to happen? Again, for now, everything is not formatted. But let's say, again, I'm going to add one more paragraph. So let's create here another paragraph. So I'm going to have the paragraph tags. And for some reason, I couldn't get them. And again, let's write it the same way, where we're just typing something that doesn't really make sense. Now, the moment we're going to press save, notice what happens. So now the Visual Studio Code, with the help with our extension, formats everything nicely. Now I understand that for now it might not seem very useful because we really have 3 paragraphs and all the tutorial that we did was pretty much 6 lines of code. However, as we're going to start working with the projects and as you're going to keep on working with CSS and CSS projects, formatting your code is really going to help you out in the long run. And by the way, you did need to restart the server because obviously we didn't reload the server. So I did this already behind the scenes. But if you didn't do it, then you're going to have only 2 paragraphs shown. So again, you would need to restart the server by going live. And just to make my point across, you should want to have some kind of formatting for your code because this is going to be really painful if you're going to have to do it manually. Hey guys, in this video, I would like to talk about keyboard shortcuts. Now, in general, the main idea is to save you time of not using the mouse. Because the more and more web development with HTML or CSS or with JavaScript you're going to do, you'll notice that instead of reaching for the mouse each and every time you need to do something, if you're going to use a keyboard, that will going to save you a lot of time in the long run. Now, I have to warn you right off the bat that in the beginning, they might seem like a hustle. So you might be like, well, this does not make sense. I can just use the mouse. And you can. But I would suggest incorporating them one by one. Let's say learn one of them, and then every time you need it, start using it. And then eventually pick it up more and more. And you'll see how your workflow is going to improve dramatically. Now, first and foremost, where we can get all of them. So if you'd like to know all your keyboard shortcuts in a Visual Studio Code, where you can find them, well, we'll need to open the Visual Studio Code in a new tab. Then we're gonna get the welcome screen. And notice here we have printable keyboard cheat sheet. So this is where we're looking for the keyboard shortcuts. Now, what's gonna happen the moment you're gonna open up, these are gonna be your shortcuts. Now, nobody is expecting you to remember all of them. Obviously, it's impossible, especially like first day, and I wouldn't suggest memorizing them for some kind of reason. Instead, like I said, I would suggest incorporating the most interesting ones and then one by one pick it up more and more. Now, what I'm going to show you is just a few of the ones that I'm using. Maybe the ones that I kind of feel most important ones. I don't know. It's really up to you. You'll see. Again, you want to use them, great. If you don't want to use them, it's also fine. It's really up to you. Now, whenever I'm going to be talking about the Option key, I also can mention that this probably would be Alt. I'm pretty sure, because as I'm looking right now at my Mac keyboard, it says Option, but I'm quite certain that it would also mean Alt. And also, I would like to mention that whenever I'm going to say Command, in most cases on the Windows, this is going to mean Control. Again, I cannot guarantee that, but in most cases, I'm quite certain that this is going to be the case. Now, let's start with the most basic one, which in fact probably has nothing to do with Visual Studio Code, but you can still use it here, and that is Command Z, which is for undoing stuff. So let's say I'm going to write something. So I'm going to say there's going to be a heading 1, and the heading 1 is going to be Hello World. Now I'm going to copy and paste the line, which we're going to learn later. And you know what? At some point, I'm going to decide that I don't need this line. So I'm going to delete this line. Now, what would happen if I would change my mind again and if I would want to get a line? Now, obviously, I can create a new one, but the fastest way option would be pressing Command Z, and it pretty much undoes everything that I did last. Now, again, we also have an options of Command C for copying and Command plus V for pasting. So also those would be the basic ones. And if you want to check some commands, let's say for editing, as you can see, I have the undo, and the shortcut would be Command Z. Then we have redo. Again, that would be Shift Command plus Z. And then I have copy, cut, copy, and paste. So again, those would be very basic ones. However, even though they seem basic, trust me, undo is going to save you a lot of times whenever you make some kind of mess. Now, very interesting one would be creating multiple cursors. So let's say that I have some kind of, I don't know, text. And let me copy and paste more lines. And if I would decide that, you know what, not only I want to change hello world to hello people on one line, but let's say in all 6 of them here. Now what we can do is we can hold the Option key or Alt. And then as we're holding it, then start pressing on the different lines. So notice I would like to place a cursor here. I would like to place a cursor here, as well as I would like to place the cursor right here. So now my cursor, instead of 1 line, is on 6 lines. So what I can do right now is I can just delete hello world and then just type whatever I would like. So as you can see, this saves me a time of jumping from one line to another one and then adding hello people, hello people, hello people. Again, that shortcut would be holding the Option plus clicking whenever you would like to place a cursor. Obviously, in this case, I would like to place my cursors where I have the end of the word. But in general, again, you can place them anywhere you would like. Now, also, let's look at how we can select the whole line, because that would be our next one. So let's say if I would like to select, I don't know, the second line. Now, of course, I can use the mouse and I can do something like this. Or as we're navigating, I could just press Command and plus I. And notice right away, I have my line selected. So if I would like to delete it, I can just delete the line. Select another one. Okay, sure enough, select another one. Select the last one. We just move the cursor down, as well as just deleting the line. And in our case, we're not touching the mouse at all. Once we know how to select the whole line, we can also look at how we can navigate, meaning move where the words start or end. So let's say that we are in the beginning of the line and we would like to move to the end of people. Now, obviously, we have an option of just moving the cursor, or clicking it with the mouse. However, we have also an option of holding the option key, and then as we're holding the option key, we can move either to the right or to the left. And notice what happens. Now I'm moving with the word, not with just one move the cursor or with the actual mouse. So again, this is going to save you a lot of time whenever you have big line, but you would like to move with the words, not with actual cursors and stuff like that. Now, also, we have an option of right away moving from the end of the line to the beginning of the line. So if I'm going to press command and again, cursor left or right, notice now I'm moving from the one side of the line to the other side of the line. Now, also, I can move up and down the whole document. So if I'm going to press command up, as you can see right now, we're at the top of the document. And if I'm going to press command and down, now we're going to be in the bottom of the document. Also, very interesting is command and D, which gets the same selection. So let's say not only we're going to have the heading 1 as well as the second heading 1, but we're going to have, let's say, heading 2, hello world. And then again, let's copy and paste the line. Let's maybe change this to hello people. But in this case, I would like to change the heading 1 again back to heading 1. I'm sorry, heading 2 back to heading 1. Now, what would happen if I would like to select all the heading 1s in this case? Again, not the heading 2 in the middle that has the hello world, but only the heading 1s. Well, I have an option, as you notice, as I'm hovering right now with my cursor over the heading 1. If I'm going to press command D, then I'm going to select what I would like to start selecting. And if I'm going to keep on pressing command D, then now I'm selecting the second one. So now I have 2 heading 1s. Then I have the third one. And then I have the fourth one. So in this case, if I would like to change this to, let's say, heading 4, I can just change on all of them. And again, this is really powerful when you have 15 of them or something like that. It really is going to save you time. Now, also, we have an option of copy and pasting the same line. Now, the keyboard shortcut for that would be Shift, Option, and down key. So if I'm keyboard down, basically. So if I'm going to press Shift, Option, and then keyboard down, check this out. So I have a second line, third one, fourth one, and this is basically how we can do that. Now we can also have an option of moving the actual line up or down. So let me just navigate to the bottom here. Then let's start a new line. And let's say that this is going to be heading 6. So I'm heading 6. So something like this. And let's say that I would like to move again this heading 6 somewhere here in the middle. Let's say the third line or something like that. Now, obviously, we have an option. We can maybe select the line. We can cut it out. We can go over here and copy and paste it. That is always an option. However, we have a faster way. We can hold the option key and then just press keyboard up or down. Notice now I'm just moving this heading 6 up or down as much as I would want to. You want to move it out? You can move it out. You want to move it here in the comments? We can move it in the comments. This is really powerful, and you will going to use this a lot once you're going to start using the keyboard shortcuts. Also, we have an option of creating the comments. I think we already covered this though. Remember when I said that we can always use the command and /, and this is going to create us the comment. So if you would like to write some gibberish over here, sure enough, you can go ahead and do that. Now let me select the line and let's just delete the line without touch of the mouse. Also, if we would like to start a new line somewhere in the middle, let's say that I'm navigating somewhere here and I'm at the end of the hello. However, I would like to start a new line. Now, one of the options would be, again, we can move with the command, press return or enter, and we're going to start a new line. However, there's a faster way. So let me delete this first of all. Let me again navigate somewhere in the middle. And if we're going to press command plus enter in this case, so you need to hold the command, then we're going to start right away a new line. So again, we wouldn't have to navigate to the end of the line. Now, there's also an option of changing these shortcuts. So if we're going to hold command K plus, then we're going to press first time command K, then we're going to press command S. This is going to open us these shortcuts and we can obviously change them. So if you would like to change how the shortcut would be entered, you can obviously do it over here. And as you can see, this would basically tell you what the shortcut is doing, and you can change these keys. So this would be in short about the shortcuts. And I would suggest at least starting one by one using them because they will gonna save you a lot of time in the long run. I would also like to talk about the external resources. And while we're at it, we're all gonna look at the header element and the meta tags that I promised you in the beginning. Now, two really good resources are going to be Mozilla Development Network, and the easiest way to search it again would be just going to Google, and you can just type MDN. Now, with Mozilla Development Network, it is really good. However, I think that you'll probably going to start using it once you are already somewhat comfortable with HTML or any kind of technology, because while the documentation is really good, it is also very extensive. So let's say, first of all, if we would like to go back there, we can always have an option of searching, right? So we have an option of searching, let's say HTML in our case, and then we have an option for documentation. So in our case, we would like to select HTML. Then within the HTML, we would need to start navigating to whatever we would like to research. So let's say we're going to be looking for HTML tutorial, or you can have the HTML documentation or Mozilla Development Network. And in my case, let's just click on the tutorial. Now in the tutorial, notice we're going to have all these options where on the left-hand side, they right away give you the CSS. But if in the beginning, you would just like to understand everything about the HTML, then this is where you're going to be doing the research, whether that's going to be multimedia and embedding, let's say images in HTML, or let's say the head element in the HTML. Now, a little bit more user-friendly, especially in the beginning, would be W3 Schools, where again, you would just search it in Google for W3 Schools. And once we click on it, obviously there's a bunch of tutorials available to us. Now, again, in our case, we will gonna select HTML since this is what we're covering. And then within HTML, let's go ahead and let's find the HTML head element. And now we can start reading everything that there is about it. So like I said, this would be a container for metadata, so data about the actual site, and that would be placed within the head element, obviously, and the metadata is not going to be displayed. Now there's going to be tags, let's say for the title, and we already covered title. Title would be for the page title, but then later on, as we're going to be working with style sheets, we're also going to work with style tags, as well as linking the style sheet, so linking the CSS, as well as we have an option for JavaScript. Now, there's always going to be meta tags, and for the meta tags, and again, this would be the title, and as you can see, you can read everything that there is about title. Then the style element would be for styling, like I said, and style element we're going to cover in the CSS. Link is going to be linking to the external style sheets, and then we have the meta element. Now, in the meta element, you have multiple options. Let's say we have character set. Now, if we're going back and checking our basic setup with an Emmet, we notice that our first meta tag would be character set. So this answers what is meta tag is doing. Then also we have an option, let's say for description. So again, the syntax would be meta. Then we have the name, and in our case, that would be description. And then here we would place the content. Now, the same old spiel would be for the keywords. If you want to add keywords, author. In the bottom, we have the viewport meta tag that explains how the viewport meta tag is going to work. So viewport meta tag allows our pages to be responsive. So again, if we're going to head over back to our basic setup with Emmet, we'll notice that we already have the viewport tag that sets up the width properly, and that way our page is going to be responsive. So again, if you'd like to research more information about anything that we talked about it, this is a very good resource, as well as Mozilla Developer Network.